on power station Radio Gold 90.5. You're also live on RadioGold905.com on the internet, of course, across the country on our various partner stations, including Sekpele 104.3 in Likpe, Radio Kwando 102.5 in Kwando, Lukusi Radio 96.1 is in Virgo Lokwati. We are live in Sekendi on Radio Silver. We are live in Saboba on Radio Kitawan 95.7. Shine FM 96.9 is in Akachi. We are live on GFM Radio in London. And you are listening to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. My name is Senna. Number show produced by Patrick Casford Boyd with support from Franco Trading Enterprise, Kulun Ghana Limited, and TT Brothers. And of course, a lot of help from our technical department. We are live on PAB MCGH, PAB PAB. You have a dash MCGH on Facebook. You can watch the program live there, and you can also share your comments on the issues we'll be discussing on that particular platform, or you can send a WhatsApp message to 0233 995905 0233 995905. Please take your time in typing the message to make it easier for me to be able to read out your message. So a big thank you for joining us this morning. Of course, this morning I'll be joined in the studio by Mr. Kwesi Prajini, managing editor of the Inside newspaper, Dr. Eduardo Maniboama, as a former communications minister, Phyllis Kwachi Fosu, former deputy minister of communications, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa is member of parliament for North Tongue, Sam Piale is president of NDC's professional forum, and we'll be discussing the debate on who has managed the economy well, the banter between former President Mahama and members of government, especially that comment that was made by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, calling the former president the incompetent one who's making an attempt to come back. And we'll be talking about that. And also because the former president also indicated that big names don't solve economic hardships, referring to the current situation Ghanaians find themselves in terms of the economy. And on our second topic, we'll be discussing the claim by President Akufo-Addo at Financial Times Africa Summit. And of course, a claim that has been made over and over again that they have reviewed 24 power purchase agreement and have saved the country $7 billion. And the position of the minority on the president's claim could have been, he also took claim for dealing with the power crisis that confronted the country under the former president John Dramani Mahama. The minority insists that they left a stable power sector to the president and that they have not added a single megawatt of power to claim any credit for solving the power crisis. And then we'll be discussing the issue of whether or not there should be politics on our basic school and senior high school campuses, because a national organizer aspirant of the National Democratic Congress, Captain retired Joshua Kamba, made an entry into Timpani Senior High School, and that became a major topical issue, resulting in the suspension of the headmaster of that school. If you just join us, you're listening to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Welcome to you, and we'll start off the discussion today. We've already been joined in the studio by Phyllis Kwachi Fosu, who is a former Deputy Minister of Communications. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
So let's start off the discussion with the issue of who manage the economy better.
Well, thank you very much, Senna, and good morning to your cherished listeners. It's been a while.
Yes, of course.
Since I've been here. But
nice to see you.
Well, it's nice to be here. It's certainly nice to have the opportunity to interact with your cherished listeners whose support and continuous prayers for your station sustains this program. The topic that you have placed on board for discussion as to the debate on who manages the economy better is a fairly straightforward one. To be honest with you, I'm even surprised that it has become a subject of debate at all. If I ask you today to tell me between Manchester United and Arsenal, which is the better team, it is a straightforward issue. You simply look at their laurels since they were founded and compare the two sets of achievements that have been chalked, and you come to the conclusion, and it will be Manchester United, irrespective of where they are currently on the Premier League table. It is the same with economic management. It is the same with national development. Both parties have been around, at least in their current forms, since 1992, and have had opportunity to govern this country. So there's empirical data that would differentiate or separate both parties when it comes to who is the better option for this country. It just so turns out that the New Patriotic Party has deeply ingrained in their DNA a tendency to churn out outright falsehood without regard for the sensibilities of the people of Ghana. They have absolutely no respect for the people of Ghana, and so are able to master confidence to spread outright falsehood and make them look like they are true. And in the week under review, this has been on display, both on the parts of President Akufo-Addo and the extremely discredited Dr. Bawumia. Now, to begin with, let me say that, you see, the vice president has to get his head out of this delusional stupor that he appears so engrossed in at the moment. He does not realize that there is not a single politician in Ghana today who is so distrusted as him. He does not realize that he has been stripped of any credibility in the last 2 years because of what the people of Ghana have seen him do and say. And so he believes that he can go on the same tangent that he was on in the run-up to the 2016 elections and make statements that the people will take lock, stock, and barrel without examining him. In the past, when he was supporting President Akufo-Addo's campaign as a vice presidential candidate, there was little upon which he could be assessed because he came empty-handed, apart from clutching a set of manifesto promises that any objective person who was assessing the MPP on the sidelines would know were utopian in nature. He had nothing upon which to be assessed. But having been in government, there is ample data, there is ample evidence upon which to assess him. And the truth is that he cannot hold a candle to President Mahama when it comes to assessing who among the two. In fact, there should even be no basis for comparison. President Mahama has been president of this country. He has been vice president before. He has sat in the very chair that Dr. Bawumia sits now and has gone past that and become president of this country. There is no indication that Dr. Bawumia will ever become president of this country. At the moment, even his own party perceives him as a liability. And so in this week, they have been willing to put out evidence of foibles and misdeeds on his part. Why? The president is exceptionally profligate and ostentatious in his dealings. When he travels with an entire army. When he went to the UN General Assembly, there were over 150 people on his delegation. But that information was closely guarded. But when it came to Bawumia, information about him have been put out gleefully by persons in government because they find out he's a liability. So the earlier they discredited him further, apart from what his own statements have done to him, the better, so that he'll be out of the way when the time comes for the MPP to elect a new flag bearer after President Akufo-Addo has been soundly defeated in the 2020 elections. He should come to the realization now that he's nobody's darling anymore. And when the time comes for an assessment to be made, it is what he has achieved that will be used, not comical statements that he makes on seemingly serious platforms. When you go to an MCU conference, you go there to speak about government policy and direction. When you go to a national policy summit, you go there to engage the people of Ghana. It is not the place where you dabble in comical politics and think that you are standing on a platform at Zebila promising 1 million per constituency and telling them to come to Accra to receive the money, only for you to turn around and tell them that the money has expired. So that kind of politics is no longer tenable. And to be honest with you, I have seen vice presidents in the country. I saw Mr. Akar, and despite all his disagreements with President Rawlings, he cut a very serious image. I saw Professor Mills, who brought dignity and decency to that office. We saw President Mahama, whose all-action displays as vice president led to monumental achievements. Then we saw the late Kwesi Emisata, who brought even more dignity and poise and equanimity to that office. What we have now is quite frankly a pale shadow of all these great men. And the earlier he retraced his steps and took on a more serious and business-like ambience, the better for him. So there's no basis for comparison between him and President Mahama. But when you have to analyze the achievements of both parties as far as the economy is concerned, the devil is in the detail. So you simply go for the facts as they are, the records as they stand, and do your analysis. When Dr. Bawumia and President Akufo-Addo shout from the rooftops, and by the way, the idea that people appear to hold Dr. Bawumia responsible for the horrendous output of the Akufo-Addo government, at least in terms of economic management, I'm sure may give the president a false sense of security that, oh, he is not under attack. People are not holding him responsible, so he can hide behind his loquacious vice president. But you see, nothing could be further from the truth. That people do not go to the president to seek answers and hold him accountable for poor economic performance is a vote of no confidence in him. People simply have resigned themselves to the fact that he has nothing to offer as far as managing the economy is concerned. So let's go to the man who was making all the noise. So it is cold comfort for President Akufo-Addo that people are not holding him directly responsible, but are holding his vice president. It's an indication that at the earliest opportunity, people will get rid of him because they don't see that he has any capacity at all to manage the Ghanaian economy. He has surrendered that to his vice president. So let him not think that because Dr. Bawumia has become the butt of jokes and derision from the people of Ghana, he, the president, is absolved of responsibility. Ultimately, everything lands on his table. And when his face appears on the ballot paper in 2020, the thumbprints will go against him and in favor of President Mahama, because people think that he has not performed. They simply are not spending time to ask him because they know that he is not able to provide any answers, as he himself has said on a number of occasions. But as far as the records go, what we have currently is a government that touts some macroeconomic indices. And their favorite line is that, oh, they have grown the economy from 3.7% to 8.3%. Actually, it is now 8.1% after the rebasing of the economy was done. And you hear the president tout this everywhere he goes. In London this week, he said that the industrial sector grew from negative 0.5% to 17%. And so it is an indication that the NPP has done well. But when you drill down further and examine the figures, you will see exactly why it is so. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Akufo-Addo government. Indeed, they have done nothing when it comes to this economy. What has happened is that as far back as the middle of 2016, it had been known and projected by the IMF, the World Bank, all the ratings agencies, and other international financial organizations that because of additional inflows of oil, we were going to have economic growth ranging between 8 and 9%. In fact, 2nd November 2016, President Mahama went to commission the Accra Digital Center. In his speech, he made the point that because of the investments of his government in the oil sector, 2 additional oil fields had come on stream by the last quarter of 2016, the 10 fields and the Sankofa fields. And these were going to boost our oil production capacity. So because of this, our economy was going to witness a jump. Now, if you look at the figures, by December 2016, we were producing averagely 60,000 barrels of oil a day. In addition to the work that was being done, there were problems with the FPSO in the Jubilee field, which should naturally be giving us 120 100,000 barrels of oil a day. But problems with the FPSO, the turret bearing, ensured that they had to cut back oil production by almost half. So we're getting an average of 60,000 barrels a day. As I speak to you, that has jumped to almost 170,000 barrels a day. If you look at the Ghana Statistical Services Bulletin, they indicate that oil production between 2016 and 2017 grew by 80.6%. Because of that, mining and quarry, under which oil and gas production forms, grew by 46%. When you look at the economy, the industrial sector, it is broken down into a number of subsectors. There's mining and quarry, under which oil and gas comes. There's manufacturing. There is electricity production. There's water production. There's construction. So all these subsectors come together to form the industrial sector. But because of the way they do a weighted average of each sector. And depending on the contribution of a particular sector, it can tilt the balance a certain way. So it is that massive jump in oil production that influenced mining and quarries growth, which also influenced the industrial growth. If you look at water production, for instance, what is it that President Akufo-Addo has done in water production that would ensure such growth? Before President Mahama left, he had added 102.9 million gallons of water a day additional supply capacity. That is water that became available to an additional 7 million Ghanaians. And so that ensured that water production also grew. The Akufo-Addo government has added approximately zero production capacity to water. Electricity production, when the NDC came to power, our total production capacity was 1,938 megawatts. Of course, the Bui Dam had just started. So if you give full credit to President Kufuor, as we should and we will, that added 400 megawatts to it. So it came to 2,300 megawatts. By the time President Mahama left, he had added 2,000 megawatts production capacity to electricity. The Akufo-Addo government has added approximately 0 megawatts to our production capacity. So all those subsectors were influenced by the work of the Mahama administration. And that is how come oil production added almost half to our GDP. So when you do a disaggregation, almost half of that 8.1% comes from oil production, increased oil production, and all the other improvements that I have told you about. If you like, check the construction sector, check the manufacturing sector, and see if any significant progress has been made there by the Akufo-Addo government. None worthy of note. So that figure that they bandy about is the direct result of the work done by President Mahama. Inflation, it is currently at 9.9%. I suspect that because of all that has happened, it will go into double digits by the next time that the Statistical Service reports on it. If you check the 2017 budget, the Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, acknowledged the downward trajectory of inflation in his 2017 budget, because it started the year in 2016 at 19%. By December, it had dropped to 15.4%. Inflation is known as a lagging indicator. That means that the factors that cause it happen well in advance of its recording. So if it is on a downward trajectory, you don't need to do much to sustain it. And all the work had been done. Since they've been in power, they've achieved single digits on 2 occasions. As I speak to you, it rose in August from 9.3% to 9.9% in September. And from all indications, to go into double digits, but for any significant intervention that is made by this government. So these are the figures that the NPP beats its chest about. They talk about an enhanced, if you like, balance of payment position or gross international reserves. That is only influenced by the massive borrowing that they have undertaken. So basically, they go and borrow money on the bond market and then come and heap it on the Bank of Ghana. And then they record that as an increase in our external reserves. That is not organic growth. That is not growth that is influenced by work that is happening in the economy. Anybody at all can go and borrow and come and put it in a bank account and show up his balance. But you see, before I delve into the record of the NDC, let me question the sincerity of President Akufo-Addo and his Vice President, Dr. Bawumia. Because they never believed in the use of macroeconomic indices to assess the performance of an economy only 2 years ago. And listeners and viewers can do this exercise. They can Google up a story on City FM Online on 21st August 2014. Dr. Bawumia questioned the authenticity, the accuracy, and the truthfulness of macroeconomic figures churned out by the Bank of Ghana and the Ghana Statistical Service, especially in relation to the exchange rate depreciation and inflation. In 2012, he did same. He attacked the very Bank of Ghana that propelled him to some form of national prominence in the past. On the part of President Akufo-Addo, he went to the campaign launch of Madam Tina Mensah, who was their candidate for Wage Agbawi constituency. That was on the 3rd of October 2016. At the time, the Moody's rating agency, had upgraded our bond ratings from negative to a stable outlook. President Akufo-Addo questioned this and said that it was inaccurate to the extent that it did not reflect in the living conditions of the people. So I posed the question to these two gentlemen. Why should we take the figures that these same organizations are churning out today, lock, stock, and barrel? Where is their consistency? Where is their candor? Where is their truthfulness? Where is their honesty? And in view of their total lack of candor, must we not dismiss these figures offhandedly? Especially when you look at the consequence of their policy on the living conditions of people. I'll come to that. But let me make a detour into what is a vastly superior record of the NDC government. Of course, the MPP has a habit of just picking the end period figures, 2016. And they said, oh, the economy grew 3.7%, as if that is the only period that the GDP of this country has been assessed. The fact remains that the best ever performance of this economy since independence occurred under the NDC government between 2009 and 2016. The best ever performance. The figures are there. The highest growth rate ever was recorded in 2011. At the time, in the whole world, Ghana was ranked as the second best performing economy. We were only second to Qatar, who, because of vast oil and gas resources, grew at 17% that year. We grew at 14.4%. And if you do the disaggregation, it is true that it was significantly influenced by oil also. But a disaggregation shows that the non-oil sector grew by 7%. And 7% non-oil sector growth is very, very significant. If you grow at that rate consistently, you will be on your way to true middle income status, and you would soon move into the high income brackets. We produced the longest ever sustained period of single digit inflation for 33 months between 2010 and 2012. Indeed, before oil production influenced the size of our GDP, we had grown by 8% in 2010, 8% without oil in 2010. In 2012, we grew by 8.8%. These three growth rates are among the best ever that this country has recorded. The MPP has never recorded 14% growth, even though they've had oil too. If you look at cocoa production, for instance, the highest ever yield of 1 million metric tons was achieved also in 2011. Up until that time, the highest ever gross international reserves of about $5.4 billion, which covered us for 4 months. When we came into power, we had only 2 months import cover. But by 2011, we had improved that position to 4 months of import cover. The exchange rate in a particular year depreciated only 1.4%. And all these are very valuable facts that completely dwarf anything that the MPP can show as far as economic management is concerned. I have gone through these figures to deflate the claims of the MPP that they are better managers of the economy. It is a flat-out untruth, championed by the president and his vice and the horde of spokespersons that they have to mislead the people of Ghana into believing that these are the true facts. And the facts are available. All you need to do is a Google search and it will pop up. That said, given that President Akufo-Addo and his vice president believe in the use of the assessment of the quality of life of the people to measure the progress a country makes in terms of its economy, let us examine what the issues are currently and how NPP policy is affecting the well-being of the ordinary Ghanaian. Why? President Akufo-Addo and his vice are on record. On the 15th of May 2015, Dr. Bawumia waxed lyrical about how the NDC government at the time was insensitive because of some marginal increase in fuel price. President Akufo-Addo repeated same. Today, what is the price of fuel? It has gone through the roof. For the very first time in the history of this country, the price of fuel has gone past 5 Ghana cedis a litre. That gives you almost 25 Ghana cedis a gallon, which is an increase of 11 Ghana cedis over the 14 Ghana cedis that we left it at. The exchange rate, which Dr. Bawumia used as his sole benchmark for determining economic performance when he made that infamous declaration at the highly partisan Central University platform, that if the fundamentals of your economy are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. Except that today, he is pushing forward a most illogical position that the same exchange rate, if it is weak, means that your economic fundamentals are strong. He claims that it is external factors that portfolio investors are pulling out their investments. I challenge him to show me evidence of any specific portfolio investor who has pulled out of the Ghanaian economy because of a strengthening U.S. currency and a rebounding U.S. economy. They should show us, they should list for us how much money has been taken out of this country by those investors because they want to go and invest in the U.S. market. Look, emerging economies are the Brazils, the Indonesias, the South Africas, the Chinas of this world. We are, on paper, a middle income economy. But in terms of our capacity, in terms of the size of our economy, we come nowhere near the BRICS nations, who are the ones suffering the crunch. The Argentinas of this world, the Chiles of this world. They are the ones who are suffering from the rebounding U.S. economy. So Dr. Bawumia should stop making excuses and admit that he has failed, that his stock was all bragging, and that he has proven to be exceptionally flat-footed and ordinary in the management of the Ghanaian economy. It is the reason why we are bearing the brunt. It is the reason why all the hardships that we are suffering are being recorded. In other words, all the hardship is the direct result of policies of President Akufo-Addo. In the past, it used to be low-income earners who were at the forefront of complaints of hardships. They are the ones who are always affected by hardships. They can't afford transport fares. They cannot afford to make ends meet. They can't afford 3 square meals a day. They cannot afford to meet basic expenditure. Today, they are even more hard hit by the massive hardships that President Akufo-Addo has foisted on them. Because when fuel prices go up, it leads to an increase in just about everything. On my way here, I heard the soundbite that you played of my brother Dr. Manibuama, where he pointed out that tomatoes on the market have gone up in price by 30%. It is the same for just about every foodstuff. Everybody who goes to the market knows that what I'm saying is the exact truth. Every commodity in Ghana has gone up to the extent that even yogurt, you know, when you buy yogurt, sometimes depending on your income status, they can cut it for you. There was a demonstration last week in Takoradi by yogurt vendors because the price had gone up. And why has it gone up? The Association of Ghana Industries has said in a letter that they've penned to the finance minister dated 22nd August 2018 that because of Nana Akufo-Addo's introduction of increases in VAT, their production cost has gone up by an average of 5%. And because Nana Akufo-Addo will not do anything about it, they are compelled to pass it on to the consumer. So almost all manufacturing firms in Ghana have increased their prices by about 5%. It's a reason why beer, I don't drink. I don't know about Ambassador Yali. But if he does, it means that these days he cannot even drink away his sorrows.
Drink the small one.
Okay, the small one you drink, you can't drink it anymore unless you are prepared to pay more. Unless you are prepared to pay more, you will not be able to afford that small one too. Because even beer, Guinness, I'm sure Akweteshi too has not gone on skate. So if you want a quarter or a third of Akweteshi, you should be prepared to pay more. And this is because Nana Akufo-Addo has directly increased the price by charging those who manufacture it more than they used to pay under President Mahama. Today, importers have said that they pay 3 times the duties that they used to pay under President Mahama because President Akufo-Addo has decided to change the formula. That is an indirect way of increasing the duty payments. Because when you challenge, they will tell them, but there are no increases, no taxes that have been increased at the port. They are using what they call benchmark to assess the duties that people pay. So you pay 3 times more. And today, what is happening is that importers are willing to forfeit their containers. And the few of them who are able to clear it have no option than to pass on the increases onto consumers. Such that today, tractor drivers, when they go to buy spare parts, that's sold for 1,200 under President Mahama, they have to pay 1,800. That is the extent of hardship. But this is for low-income earners. Even high-income earners are complaining. MPs, members of parliament, are complaining. Judges, last week I saw a news item quoting judges who are lamenting that an additional 2,000 Ghana cedis has been deducted from their salary because President Akufo-Addo has said that if you earn more than 10,000 Ghana cedis, you will pay 35% income tax instead of 25% under President Mahama. So judges and MPs too have been hard hit. In addition to this, if you are going to renew your registration, your vehicle registration at DVL, you will pay an additional 10, also additional 1,000 to 2,000 Ghana cedis. If you go to buy fuel, you have to contend with the fact that fuel prices have gone up an additional 16 times under President Mahama. And recently the TUC, which had been quiet for some time and were basically a bit more tolerant of the MPP, had no option than to bare their teeth and dismiss the propaganda of Dr. Bawumia and ask him to focus on fixing the economy. So,
because of the power,
absolutely. So, the point that I wish to make as I wrap up is that the MPP has been, quite frankly, mediocre in the things that they've done over the years. There's nothing that they've done that has not been done before. And if you compare sector by sector what it is that they are offering today to what the NDC has done, it is a huge joke. And so the president and his vice should not be beating their chest. They should be hiding under some table because of the monumental. Why? Today, their own supporters are so embarrassed that they are leading the charge and attacks on them. Just go onto social media and observe the words of those who used to trumpet the MPP's capacity to deliver and listen to what they are saying today. So I will conclude by adding that that debate that you've placed before us to engage in should not have arisen because the facts are so clear that the MPP will be trounced any day that it comes up. President Mahama and the NDC have a vastly superior record to anything that the MPP can offer.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. You heard for this question. So he'll be coming back on the second topic. And before I go to Dr. Edward Omani-Boama, just a few of the messages you're sharing with us on the PAP MCGH wall. Don't forget you can watch it live on Facebook on PAP MCGH. And Bafwewa says, how I wish Phyllis and Sam Ejenfield will be in charge of the communication office. Kingdom Kaleshi Kwesi Dachomo says, when it comes to management of the economy, NDC is far more better than the NPP. What they call Nyantechi Pocket Party. What we must know is that under SWACO4 government signed on to the HIPIC initiative, this went a long way to stabilize the currency from depreciating, because the country wasn't servicing external debt, which saves us $4.2 billion. Under those circumstances, the country didn't pay external interest rates and principals on loans contracted. This likely goes a long way to stabilize the currency, but immediately after the country opted out from the IMF HIPIC initiative, our currency depreciated by 31% and our debt stock went back to 9.6 billion, although we have benefits of debt cancellation. The price you pay for not being interested in politics is that you get led by your inferiors. That's a quote he said from Plato. And a couple of you have been complaining about the volume on, we hope it is better now, but let's go and listen to Dr. Eduardo Maniboma on our very first topic.
Thank you very much, Senator. Good morning to you, the co-panelists, and to our church listeners. This debate, as Honorable Kwachufusu rightly said, is settled, and Dr. Baumia clearly has called for a discussion that will end up disgracing him further. Why do I say this? The evidence is abundant, and I can cite series of them to demonstrate how the NDC remains superior to the MPP when it comes to the management of the economy. But like the roadside poet says, our past achievements are only important whenever they serve as a springboard for future feats. So we are not glossing over our past achievements. We seek to even do better and far better than what we did. But for the purposes of this discussion, we will use the evidence as we have them to demonstrate why we are much more capable than what the highly incompetent, and as I said, hopeless economic management team of the President Akufo-Addo administration is delivering and subjecting Ghanaians to at this stage. One, whereas NDC was creating jobs to solve unemployment, what are we seeing under the NPP? They are supervising massive job losses. The evidence is clear. They are supervising massive job losses. Today, we are not talking about unemployment as in the need to create more jobs. We are begging them that government, please, we know you are incompetent, we know you have a hopeless economic management team, but please, halt the job losses. Instead of the people of Ghana wishing for jobs to be created, we are begging in place adequate measures to halt the job losses. Just yesterday, I read Men's Gold filing for bankruptcy. And you can imagine what that is also going to add to the excruciating difficulties that Ghanaians are going through. I have stated here before, listed a plethora of job losses and potential job losses. Vodafone massively lays off workers. 1,500 to 2,000 employees lost their jobs within the first 4 months of 2017. Workers lose jobs in Tema as steel factory shuts down. 400 workers of a steel company in Tema called Ryder Steel Ghana Limited have been laid off. 100 workers of TV3 have been laid off. 67 staff of Central University already sacked, 200 more workers to follow. The collapsed UT and Capital banks caused about 1,000 people to lose their jobs. About 38,000 qualified nurses and midwives are rendered unemployed, some washing dishes to earn a living. 400 out of 600 workers dismissed, with the remaining 200 also about to be laid off. And this has to do with troubled BSc layoff of workers. You understand? It's a tall list. TV Africa and the rest. So if you are to just look at the employment sector, whereas the NDC was creating more jobs to break the gap, what we are witnessing is job losses. People are losing their jobs. Is the difference not clear? 2, you come to fuel price. At the time we were leaving office, a gallon of petrol, that's 4.5 liters, was 3.79, and a gallon of diesel was 3.75 Ghana cedis. Today, they've all gone beyond the Pentagon limits, 5 point something Ghana cedis. They've all gone beyond 5 Ghana cedis. So if you are to take fuel pricing, there again, the evidence is clear. The third point that demonstrates that NDC is superior: increases in taxes and import duties. ABL announced why the price of their products were going to be increased, and they cited these taxes and all. But is it just about ABL? No. Abusokai, several importers. We have seen short videos in Germany, in the UK, in the US, and several other places complaining about the import duties. And these high taxes and import duties impact on not just the importers, but also the consumers. So that is also clear. You look at salaries. Look at all the increases that we are seeing. Fuel prices, import duties, price of commodities, tomato 30% and all. And if you compare that with the increases in salaries that we witness, my brother, if this government within the next 6 months does not increase the salaries of government workers by at least 25%, the hardships that workers are going through will balloon and fall over the rooftop. If you look at payments of works done, contractors, that has also been squeezed, just so government can demonstrate that they are better managers of the economy. That is not enough. Cocoa pricing, we discussed that last week. How instead of paying cocoa farmers over 500 Ghana cedis per bag, this government is cheating cocoa farmers. And not only that, also not paying them the premium that they deserve. Now we go to some of the other items that they liked so much. Exchange rate, that also demonstrates that we were better managers of the economy, and we are better managers. It has also hit the Pentagon limits and up there. For the first time, unprecedented. $1 to 5 Ghana cedi and above. You look at inflation. For 31 solid months, 2.5 years plus 1 month, 2 years, 7 months, NDC sustained single-digit inflation. And when we are talking about that single-digit inflation, it was not 9.8, 9.7. I mean, if you round those off, you get to double digit, 10. And this is sustained single-digit inflation, 31 solid months. What are we seeing? But, interestingly, it is Dr. Bawumia who espoused all kinds of theories about those inflationary figures. You now come to the national debt. And if you look at the national debt, the question I ask is, what has this government got to show for? Dr. Bawumia was propounding theories that Ghana was becoming HIMIC, highly indebted middle-income country. In fact, there was no nomenclature like that in the first place. But assuming we are even to accept his false naming, how will he be describing the current state of our national debt? But let's say that is esoteric. And so we are beginning to ask what they have done with the huge borrowing that they have engaged in. NDC can talk about the Ridge Hospital, which they found so attractive that when Mrs. Trump came to Ghana, visited Ghana, Mrs. Akufo-Addo sent her to Ridge Hospital. That is one of the facilities. University of Health and Allied Sciences, the medical facility, ultra-modern, at the University of Ghana. You go to the Ashanti region, the Syria Hospital, the Bank of Ghana Hospital, several polyclinics. You look at the Atuabu gas project, and that is a project that is refinancing itself and can even help to pay other debts. The question is, what have they done with the indebtedness that they are engaging in? And so there again, if you are to compare national debt, NDC is way ahead of them in terms of the proper use of the monies that we secure on the international market, be it grants or concessional facilities or commercial facilities. Is it any wonder that the Vice President of the World Bank in July 2015 spoke eloquently about the Sankofa gas project as a good example of how Africa can address its infrastructure challenges and lay the foundation for sustained economic growth by providing affordable and reliable power to its population, quote and unquote? That was Makhtar Diop. You look at the highest ever growth rate. And when you talk about it, they will say that, oh, that was because of crude oil. That is true. But we also bequeath them with crude oil. What have they done with it? And this is like the parable of the talents. Crude oil, we grew it over 14%. And you are struggling to the point that the IMF is even cutting down on the projection that they did. And last but not least, the 10th, is the IMF prediction, which I have spoken about. And so as you look at this, and you begin to ask yourself, what is Dr. Bawumia referring to when he says that President Mahama, his comeback is not going to augur well for the good people of Ghana? The record is clear. And their record, that is not having anything to show for. Their indebtedness, not having anything to show for. The huge razzmatazz, the lectures and all that he engaged in, is a clear demonstration of the fact that he represents smoke and mirrors. In the early days of the film industry, to give the effect that these days computer technology offers easily, they will use smokes and mirrors to give some kind of effect. That is what Dr. Bawumia represents. He assembles information together, sometimes even gets confused within it. And so is it any wonder that when he tried to even criticize the President Mills administration on inflation, instead of going by the academic assessment and calculation of inflation, he included items that were not even in the inflationary basket. As if that was not enough. Instead of also calculating real inflation, he went into cumulative price change calculations. And at the same time, as somebody who had worked at the Bank of Ghana, was doubting the Ghana Statistical Service, the figures that they were putting out. And his excuse was that the single-digit inflation was not reflecting on the market in terms of exchange rate. I have two issues here. One, whilst he was at the Bank of Ghana, he had done a study with his colleagues, and that study had demonstrated that because of the imperfections within the markets of developing countries, there's a time lag between the effect, let's say a drop in inflation, and the effect on interest rate or the exchange rate. How could he have forgotten that study that he had engaged in with his colleagues? That is one. Two, if he still stands by this view that drops in inflation must correlate precipitously, instantly with the exchange rate, the question I'm asking is, why is it that we are seeing what they are describing as drops in inflation, but the exchange rate is dancing high up there, above 5 Ghana cedi to $1? Again, it is this same person who, in trying to calculate the debt to GDP ratio, decides that he will pick the debt as of a particular month, February 2018, but will not pick the GDP as of February 2018, but will pick the GDP in futures, just to give a facade of a much more comfortable debt to GDP ratio. This is a man who accused people that they do not read. Yet this man who reads, okay, having expiry dates staring at him prominently, went up north, distributed expired products to Ghanaians up north. Yet this is a man that this week we have been witnesses to the huge entourage that he travels with. And the question is, assuming that he doesn't read, what is the team around him, the large team around him, doing? But I have narrated all these 10 points to demonstrate that NDC is a better manager of the economy than the MPP. But I'm humble enough also to say that our past achievements are only important if they serve as a springboard for future feats, and that is why we seek to even do better going forward. You may say that as a result of the coefficient of my political bias, I have enumerated these 10 points just to make a point. I want to read out what Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, put in his 2017 budget. 1, he said, inflation has been on a downward trend, falling from 19.2% in March 2016 to 15.4% in December 2016. This is Ken Ofori-Atta accepting that at the time that they came into office, inflation had been on a downward trend. Two, the Treasury bill rate has fallen considerably from 24.5% in December 2015 to 16.4% in December 2016. This is Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta accepting that the Treasury bill rate was also on an appreciable trend. He continues, a balance of payment surplus of $247 million was recorded, representing a vast improvement on a deficit of $129 million. There again, in terms of balance of payment surplus, he admits. He continues, a major improvement was also witnessed in the country's trade balance from a deficit of $1.7 billion in 2016 to a deficit of $3.1 billion. This was the result of an increase of 7.2% in export receipts, as well as a decline of 5.3% in imports. This is not Omane Boama speaking. This is Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. Last but not least, the NDC government bequeathed gross foreign reserves of $6.1 million. This provided import cover of 3.5 months. This is a summary of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta's 2017 budget, and you can pick that budget statement and read these from it. And so it is very, very clear who the better managers of the economy are. But you see, before we go into another election, they have the mandate. We are asking them to halt the decadence. We are asking them to halt the job losses. We are asking them to employ the nurses that they are not employing. Because I cannot understand. Some of these hospitals have been completed. Why are you not employing them? We are asking them to pay the cocoa farmers their due. Not anything less than 500 Ghana cedis per bag. We are asking them to pay workers at least a 25% increase, and this is based on the fact that there have been astronomical increases in taxes, astronomical increases in prices of commodities, astronomical increases in transport fares and all. They must deliver on this, because Ghanaians cannot continue to perish under the yoke of the mismanagement of the President Akufo-Addo administration. And whilst they continue to mismanage the economy this way, they take solace in the fact that they can use propaganda to turn the minds of the people. But you see, in opposition, we say talk is cheap. Today, they have the mandate. And so as they speak, the evidence is brought against their rhetoric. And the evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that they back much more than they bite. Okay. If even they bite at all.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Edodo Maniboma. A few of your messages before I bring in Ambassador Sampiali. This one from Stephen Kobnato says, these days you go to the market with big money and return with very little goods. The wife of my neighbor who always tunes to Omine FM to massage his disappointment. Well, he didn't complete. Okay, that is actually a quote he's attributing to somebody he said was listening to Omine FM regularly. Egu Farouk Tamali says, good morning to you. All Ghanaians must rise up against the hardships this super incompetent MPP Nana Addo government is mounting on us. The hardships are now unbelievable. And Holson Aaron says, good morning, Doc. I'm so happy seeing you today. You are my man. Love you, sir. And Amponsa brother says, F.O. Vincent Yengbe says, I want to know what this government had done to improve power situations that they are claiming credit for. Baumia is confused. And Kamal Dokurugo Ibrahim says that this topic you're discussing is part of my frustration with the NDC. There are a lot more serious incidents happening in the country that need to be flagged to expose the ruling MPP. Yet all the NDC is concerned about is what Bawumia says. This same guy set the agenda when the NDC was in power, and you allow him to do same when you are in opposition. My goodness, let's learn to be on the offensive. Mohammed Rabiu says, good morning to you, Mr. Host, and good morning to your panel. MPP and Nana Bawumia government has nothing to offer Ghanaians except hardship. Why is every commodity increasing but salaries remain same? The debt stock is higher than before, yet no development. 2020 inshallah we shall show them the exit. That's Afar Rabiu of Tamale. Mukhtar Isa says this super incompetent government is only a mess and a waste of time. 2020 will surely come. Azina Emmanuel says, please, and I want to ask if Dumso is back, because for the past 3 months to 4 months now, the case has been worse at Adan here. I don't know about other places. The light goes off not less than 15 times a day. And as at now, too, it's off from yesterday, about 5:15 p.m. till now, and it's not back. So I'm asking, what's the situation in regards to the lighting system? Joe Wilson Tete says, eye-opening info. How do you get this pieces of information? Common person in vernacular. Ghanaians need to hear this and appreciate better. Prekese Kwame says the Senate NDC stands tall in terms of tangible records and achievements as far as Ghana's development is concerned. As the nurses, if they have finished chopping their alawa, a fly that doesn't listen to advice follows the corpse to the grave. Those completed hospitals, polyclinic, CHIPS compounds, and health centers locked up by Nanado would have been occupied by them. The university graduates will also have been heading those facilities as administrators and accountants. The Terminal 3 will employ human beings, not flies. We are talking about permanent jobs, and people are talking about NABCO. Lord have mercy. Professor Kwame, aristocrats, Kasua, Old Barrier. Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Good morning, colleague panelists. You know, this morning as I was driving to the Takoradi Air Force to pick a plane, a very hostile chief, was inviting me to his funeral. And I said, oh, I have a program on Alhaji And Alhaji. They said, hey, Sam, why is it that your people are not opening new radio stations and speaking the vernacular? Because it's the same people that goes to your rival stations that have made them very popular, lucrative, and profitable. But you are also always talking big English. And this thing came to my mind because of the text message somebody has sent. So the producer's place is the same one when the Boamans Felix, Kosi and the Kosi Price and that have made those stations very popular. So if you can get your programs to suit what the consumers want, I think it will be very, very useful, so that at least throughout the week people will be listening to the alternative to what their truths are. What you have put before us this morning is not a contentious issue at all, because of the fact that what is at stake is not too far away from what everybody with a phone in his hand can Google and find out the answers. Fortunately for me and for a group that I lead, we've got some support and we have developed a very small search engine, the NDC Professionals Forum, a small search engine that can search into facts, what we call the facts, checking the facts from 1992 to date, including the economic statistics, whatever figures. So as soon as you say anything, that search engine will give you answers, date, who said what. So whatever is it that Felix and my brother are saying, as soon as you press, they will tell you the date Bawumia said this, the date my friend who's at the state transport now said they were going to build the 350 senior high schools. They'll give you all those things. So for me, I don't think that that debate is necessary. And also the fact that we are always allowing Bawumia to set the agenda. I think we have to check that also. But let's look at the context within which we are supposed to discuss this issue. Senator, you remember that when Dr. Bawumia was inaugurating the current economic management team, he said, after mentioning their names, he said, what a wonderful economic management team made up of the best men, best brains in Ghana. If you buy Obronuwewu and you buy a shirt from the shop, the quality, whether it's best or worse, will depend on how the shirt lasts. You understand? So the quality of a shirt is not where you bought it. It is how the shirts last. Within less than 2 years, what have we seen? Collapsing banks. And people are just talking about a bank failure as though it was a normal phenomenon. But in other jurisdictions, bank failure is a clear indication that there's something seriously wrong with your economy. Because it's the bank that mobilizes revenue for domestic borrowing and other things. It's the banks that gives you financial security that the economy is strong and secured. But Omia is saying that there are some investors who are withdrawing their money. Why wouldn't they withdraw their money? If you are going for a bond of 100 years, it takes investors with guts to say that I will let my money stay with you for 100 years, isn't it? But if your banks are collapsing, within 2 years of your existence as a government, why would they keep their money in the economy? If you have given such tax havens to foreign investors, to the extent that your investors are not protected, who will come and invest in your economy? Bawumia, for me, is a very serious phenomenon that has to be studied and at the same time ignored. You understand? Because everywhere, anytime he speaks, his own credit rating reduces. As at now, I do not think that if you conduct a survey, apart from the MPP Syria College, Bawumia will not get 30% of credibility. He will not get 30% of credibility. Because of the things that he had said in opposition and the things that are happening right under his management. And he continues. You see, when he gets up to speak, even today, when his GPS is not functioning, and he says that we are going to give you the best technology of GPS, which is better than America and Britain. You understand? And the GPS, which cost us 2.5 billion, is not working. Then you say, who is this man? He is said to have brought MPP to power because he coined the word incompetent and corruption and made it stick on Mahama. And even today, he's still calling Mahama incompetent. Even today, he's still calling Mahama incompetent. When Mahama never, ever took CD from whatever to 5 CDs. Mr. Dr. Moni has Ghana's CD to dollar ever hit 5 CDs? Never. So who are you deceiving? Yourself? Dr. Bawumia, stop managing this economy as if you are a serial caller and be serious. This is not a serial caller's economy where you tell lies and people go on radio stations and praise you. That is not what we deserve as a country. This is a serious country. This country is more serious than this. Now, Senator, when you look at this country critically, 3 things are happening. One is national insecurity, and they are all part of the economy. Another one is misplaced national priorities and some form of cosmic, negative cosmic methodology happening. No, you see what? How on earth, in the glare view of people not getting employed, you are going to spend so much money in building a national cathedral? Is that our national priority? Is that our national priority? How on earth is it that former government has built schools, hospitals, and others in a view of expanding education and at the same time creating employment. And you say you are not commissioning it. On Elmina Beach now, Dr. Monimo, you know that project. On the Elmina Beach now, India provided us with a cold storage factory. $11 million. It is still standing there machined. So the people of Elmina, how does their economy improve? Go to the Commander Sugar Estate factory. It's also there, not commissioned. So instead of touting that, by touting that we are going to create employment, rather instead we are creating unemployment. That is what we are facing as a country. That is what we are facing as a country. So Dr. Bawumia goes to Tamale for the purposes of reviewing their flagship projects, which whether they are flagship or not, we don't know. In responding to the need to explain what their flagship projects are and what they are doing about it, he just turned out and said, Mahama is incompetent. The incompetent man is coming back. Is that why we voted for the vice president? Sana, is that what we voted for the vice president? With 110 ministers in a hurry, is that this output we deserve? Sana, is that the output we deserve? So if some rating company say that you have moved from B plus to from B minus to B, then that is it. For me, my ratings come from the Makola women. My ratings come from the Totro women, drivers and mates. My ratings come from those who buy petrol from the filling stations, who are saying that petrol now is 5 cedis plus. That is the rating that we deserve as Ghanaians. Very good. You know that Mahama used only almost 3 years, 2 months to develop all the things that Dr. Banibuama and my friend Kachu Fosu narrated. We never went for bonds that extended beyond 50 years, did we? No. But out of our incompetence, we built several things, including the terminal, Mahama terminal. The Mahama terminal. For me, if nothing at all, that investment alone, within 5 years, may outstrip many investments that we have done. Today, why are they not talking about their flagship agricultural program? Because 18 months down the line, we should be having bumper food harvest, isn't it? From the agricultural program, what did they call it? Planting for food and jobs. Today, go and look at the market prices. What has happened to all the investment and the money we put in the planting for food and job? Results? You know the result? We spent 16 million cedis importing insecticides. The planting for food, the result was armyworms. Armyworms. And we have used 16 point something to fight the armyworms. And 8 million cedis for investment. For me as a Ghanaian, as long as we are spending money in those areas, we expect result, don't we? Don't we? And what is the result that we are having? What is the result that we are having? Today we are spending so much money, the taxpayers' money, in sponsoring the free education, senior high school education, which is a very good project, but badly implemented. Very badly implemented. So me as a Ghanaian, I don't want to be bothered with economic figures, statistics. All I want to be bothered with is that when I go to the filling station, I should be able to afford the fuel. I should be able to send my child to school, even if I'm paying, to ensure that the child is properly being taken care of. He has proper accommodation. My child is not going to drink from a stream. That for me is important. You understand? In the Eastern countries, they don't talk about GDP anymore. gross domestic project they don't. Because in Ghana, what are you producing? Apart from oil, what are you producing? So that we can account for it in the GDP. What is our income? So static. So the two areas that we use to measure national development, we are not doing anything apart from oil. So are you listening to me? We are not doing anything apart from talking. It is time that Dr. Bawumia gets serious. He has to get serious because this is a serious country. You don't assemble people and just make jokes about your friend, the former president, who has achieved, and you have achieved nothing. You spent 8 months in court with the former president, isn't it? 8 months. So within 3 years, 2 months, look at what he has achieved for this country. This does not cause you havoc. All your broken promises. The last time I read in Daily Graph, you know what they are saying? The 1 million for each constituency, they are now converting it into projects. And that they are constructing toilets and water systems. Is that our priority? Is toilet what our priority is? It's true, people need toilet in certain areas, but is that our priority? I think that this country is in a total mess. It's in total mess because the people we have put in charge of our economy are not thinking beyond politics. They are not thinking beyond propaganda. Every program that is being discussed now in this country is towards 2020 elections. And it will be a whole 4 years of wasted national time. I believe that the NDC has better programs. If it is better, properly explained to people, the Ghanaians have now seen the difference, and the difference will show.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Sampiale. And a couple of messages you're sending to PAP MCGH. And, well, this one from Ruben Odonko says that these two men in your studio are legends today. The work these two gentlemen did some years ago, now 7 people are doing now. But they call them incompetent. Oh, God have mercy. And Francis Ahovi says that, good morning, Senna. Today, under this super confused and misled MPP-led Nana governance, teachers are suffering, nurses are suffering, farmers are suffering, sellers are suffering, students are suffering, drivers are suffering. Suffering here, suffering there, suffering everywhere. Nanado has subjected Ghanaians to hardships. Abdul Rahman says that, good morning, honorable panel members. Thank you so much for enlightening us on the reality. Can someone refer those questions of Bawumia to him to answer? This one, Bright Ayuchu says, hardship everywhere. And Elliot Kalai says, great job, Alhaji and Alhaji panelists. Samson Mensah says, Bawumia is a disgrace and MPP government is a failed one. Samson Mensah again says that Bawumia is not able to read the date on goods. And Safiano Abdullahi says, thank you, Radio Gold, for the good work you're doing. We are listening to you from Beijing, China. As for Bawumia, the least said about him, the better. He has disgraced himself so badly. We, the NDC China Beijing branch, is mobilizing ourselves to come home 2020 to support the NDC party to win the election hands down. We shall do anything within our human strength to bring the NDC to power come 2020. The country is tired of this super incompetent Nanado Bawumia-led governance. More grace to your elbows. Let's read a couple more from our WhatsApp platform 0233995905. And this MPP Somisho government is offering Ghanaians with the most lawless buga buga and patapa type of governance. No wonder it is messing up with everything. Banks, NHIS, senior high school, and the economy are collapsing. The only thing they are best noted for is mischief and being diabolical against political opponents. Asanko Santa Maria. And Eric Okonu at La Paz says, my brother said, I always enjoy your program when I'm at Gonu at Bukope through the help of Shine FM. Please tell Mr. Bawumia that the economy is broke. He should fix it and bring the dollar rate down. Hi, Senna. Our wonderful honorable guests asked for President Nanado and Dr. Bawumia. I think they don't know shame. If they know what is shame, I don't think Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia respond to one of our best presidents so far. That's former President Mahama. The man can tout so many developments in his era. This government cannot pinpoint any major developments, and the economy is also bad. The government of Nanado is clueless. Black Joe in Nima and Reagan in East Legon says, hey, good morning. Why do you talk about the hopeless president and vice president with 111 ministers in governance of this noble country? He, Baumia, is a disgrace to his family. And as for Mr. President, he should continue to sleep because we know that's what he's good at. My greetings to Uncle Pratt. Peter says that the country is bitter. No wonder the only patronized commodities are Opemu bitters, today bitters, green gold bitters, family and friends bitters, among others. Ibrahim Mayer from Techizongo. And finally, Senator, today Ghanaians are truly seeing who is super incompetent as we speak, and that Dr. Baumia, as head of economic management team, tax to GDP ratio has dropped from 12.4% to 7.1%, about 42% drop. Capital expenditure to GDP ratio dropped from 2.2% to 1.1%. Non-performing loans is high. The city is unprecedentedly struggling over 5 Ghana cedis. Cost of fuel is high. Teacher and nursing trainee allowances are at the verge of being cancelled. Cocoa farmers' benefit is reducing. Ghanaians didn't bargain for this. This is why Akufo-Addo, Dr. Baumia are the real mess waiting to be cleared. That's from Koku Mauli Nanegbe. Honorable Ablakwa.
Thank you very much, Sana, and good morning to you and the panel, and of course to our distinguished listeners and viewers in Ghana and beyond. In discussing our first topic, I intend to submit that our discourse in our political space ought to be seasoned, they ought to be courteous, and we have to proceed with decency. The conduct of the current vice president is becoming unbecoming of an occupant of that high office, the second gentleman of the land. An office which naturally should exude grace, should exude dignity. Flowing from that office should be a lot of decorum, a lot of honor, and there should be, in the very least, respect for persons who have once occupied that office. When I read the headlines of what Dr. Mahmoud Baumia said, I did not really believe it. I thought that it was probably one of those spiced up publications until I saw the video. And it was not a rally. It was not addressing some MPP partisan crowd, probably in his constituency, that you may want to permit the tone. Addressing a state function, using state resources, the taxpayers' vehicles having driven you to a state function, and you speak the way you speak, using language I cannot repeat here, calling someone who has once held the office you occupy today and distinguished himself, for Ghanaians to endorse him and make him president. You call him the incompetent one and say that the man who did so much damage wants to come back, and pour scorn on him and say that we shall see. Dr. Baumia is so powerful. He has 5 million votes, his vote is more important than the votes of other Ghanaians. And he is going to determine who wins the 2020 elections. The level of arrogance, the level of discourteousness, the lack of grace that any vice president, the second gentleman of the land, should exhibit is still lacking in our vice president. Our vice president has to remember that the campaign is over. He is now vice president and head of the economic management team. And the fact of the matter is that former President Mahama is only re-echoing what the vast majority of Ghanaians are saying, including Dr. Bawumia's own boss, our president, the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I was at the last United Nations General Assembly just a couple of weeks back, when, as part of the president's program, he had a side event to address the Ghanaian community. Only a few days ago, on the 24th of September, I have the report here from that meeting, that encounter with the Ghanaian community. It's a My John Online report posted at 9 minutes past 1 p.m. on the 24th of September 2018, under the caption, "We are in difficult times, Akufo-Addo concedes." And it reads, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has admitted the economy of Ghana is going through some trying times. The economy of Ghana is going through some trying times. Speaking to the Ghanaian community in New York, Mr. Akufo-Addo attributed the difficulties in the system to the dramatic increase in crude oil prices and the strengthening of the US dollar. As for the reasons the president gives, we can discuss that later. But the fact of the matter is that this is the President of the Republic passing a vote of no confidence, what I call a vote of no confidence, so far, in the person who is head of the economic management team. Obviously, the buck stops with the president. It's the same ticket, president and vice. And so, the people of this country, unimpressed about what has transpired so far, are going to translate that vote of no confidence in showing this government the exit. Basana, the testimony of the current state of the economy, the verdict is not for me to say. It's not only members of the National Democratic Congress who are speaking. I have a few extracts here, Senna. I hold in my hands a Ghana Web report dated Tuesday, 18 September 2018. It says, "Times are hard in Ghana, Professor Jampo." This is Professor Jampo, not an NDC activist. It reads, Professor Jampo is urging government to fix the economic problems facing the country. Outspoken academic Ransford Jampo has called on the Akufo-Addo government to fix the hardships facing Ghanaians and stop the mediocre exercise of comparing their performance to the SY John Mahama administration. According to him, the government may not be fully able to appreciate the challenges Ghanaians are going through because its supporters are not speaking up or have become sycophantic. In a Facebook post, Professor Jampo noted, quote, When people are suffering, you don't tell them you are better managers than the NDC. Comparing your performance to a regime that suffers such a monumental defeat is a tacit admission of failure and mediocrity. Times are tough. Appointees and those around the corridors of power who are fully catered for by the state with the taxpayers' money may not appreciate this. Also, note that some partisan sycophants who are complaining about hardships behind the scenes are refusing to make their feelings public. Further, please be aware that others are refusing to speak candidly because it is their government in power. Ghana. Professor Jampo continues. Kindly speak to the ordinary Ghanaian to have a clearer sense of how they feel. Last Sunday at church, an elder who was preaching broke down and confessed as follows. Enianum, miye MPP nipa, nemum Ghana ayeding. Enianum, miye MPP nipa, nemum Ghana ayeding. This is an importer who complained bitterly about how the exchange rate is killing businesses of men and women. To tell me he is lying is insensitive. Professor Jampo continues. Please accept that times are hard. Explain succinctly the causes to Ghanaians and communicate the measures that have been put in place, whose fruitful results may be experienced later. This is the only way we can tighten our belts to endure this austerity, in the hope that we may overcome the economic turbulence. This is Professor Jampo, not Felix Ofosu-Kwakye or Dr. Omane Boama. Senna, I have another extract here. And this extract was published on Peace FM Online. Under the heading, "We will show you pepper if you continue to make us suffer." Importers to Akufo-Addo. We will show you pepper if you continue to make us suffer. Importers to Akufo-Addo. I read. Queen Mother for members of Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, Okaishi, Ejewa Kodie, has cautioned President Akufo-Addo and his administration to desist from rolling out policies that may have negative implications for business or face their wrath. Speaking at a press conference organized by Umbrella Body of Traders in the country over the implementation of the Cargo Tracking Note (CTN) policy, she said traders are not politicians and will not be engaging in politics, but will also not entertain policies that may have serious implications for their businesses. The story continues. Truth be told, after Nana Addo took over, we have suffered. This is Queen Mother Ejewa Kodie speaking. He says, truth be told, after Nana Akufo-Addo took over, we have suffered. Some officials have described us as thieves, but we have kept mute due to our desire to see Ghana develop. We will not complain, but we want the president to roll out policies that will benefit traders. She added, I want to tell the president that he did not choose the right people to fight with. We chose not to talk, but embark on the strike action and see the consequences. However, our men went ahead to meet the president, and he, Nana Addo, has promised to address our concerns. We appreciate this word of assurance, but we will monitor and ensure it is fulfilled, unquote. This is Ejewa Kodie speaking on behalf of GUTA at a press conference. Sana, another extract here from the TUC. Government is not creating jobs. TUC to government. Give us practical job creation steps, not rhetoric. The labor movement said stabilization is not sufficient to deal with the unemployment challenge. The TUC continues that Ghana's trade policy is not conducive for job creation. The large volumes of imports that have saturated our markets across the country is an indication that Ghana is exporting rather than creating jobs. Ghana can create employment in the right quality and quantity if we can produce a significant proportion of what we consume. And the paper continues. It's an 8-page paper on the TUC's disappointment with government so far. There's another one here by Imani, who says, times are hard. Cut down your ministers. Imani's Franklin Kujo. I can go on and on and on. This is the verdict of Ghanaians. We hear them on a daily basis. Aboso Kain spare parts dealers held a press conference. They confessed for the first time, I never knew, many people didn't know, that apparently they had contributed and raised funds, 200,000 cedis, to support the Akufo-Addo campaign. At the press conference, they say that they are closing down their shops. They cannot pay duties. After their press conference and their demonstration, you recall what happened? This same vice president called those Aboso Kain demonstrators a rented crowd by the NDC. That we in the NDC had rented a crowd who were impersonating as traders from Aboso Kain. Can you believe that? The vice president continued on this his trajectory of insults and pouring scorn on everybody. Anybody who crosses his path gets an unfair share of the insults. It's not only President Mahama. But you see, our approach, I will suggest, should be that of just discussing the issues dispassionately. We should not descend into the gutters. I know that it can be painful for a lot of our members. They can't take the insults. But let's see it as a sign of desperation. This is a government is failing. President Akufo-Addo had promised, if you recall, that he was going to develop this country in 18 months. In 18 months. That was the promise that President Akufo-Addo made to Ghanaians. In 18 months. And here we are. He has not been able to deliver on that. And so desperation has set in. And my admonishment this morning will be that let us not also follow on that path of insulting the opponent. Let us discuss the matters, show respect and courtesy to Ghanaians. Let's take a leaf from Michelle Obama's 2016 Democratic National Convention address, when she said that her mantra is that when they go, we go high. As Baumia continues to sink low and lower and lower and lowest, let us go high. But you see, Senna, your invitation for us to carry out an empirical analysis analysis of our economic situation to compare who are better managers of the economy. The history of Ghana does not begin in 2016 or 2015 or 2010. The history of Ghana begins 6 March 1957 when Ghana became Ghana, when we changed from Gold Coast to Ghana. And that history we all know is that by that infamous coup, by the time that infamous coup of 24 February 1966, Ghana was on the path of economic prosperity. Over 300 industries. Ghana was manufacturing. I came to meet radio television sets that my late grandfather used with a lot of pride. They were manufactured in Ghana. Tema Shipyard. I recall that in 2015, as Deputy Minister of Education, when I went to Hungary to sign on behalf of Ghana a scholarship package we had negotiated with the Hungarian government for Ghanaian students, 50 Ghanaian students every year. In the office of the education minister was this advisor who told me that his father worked in Ghana as one of the advisors to President Nkrumah. And I have never forgotten what he said, that at the time we constructed our motorway, Hungary did not have, they had not seen a motorway like this. Many parts of Europe didn't have what we had between 1957 and 1966. The forebears of the MPP truncated this. So when Baumia talks about people who have done damage to this economy, nobody has done damage to this economy than the masterminders, those who spearheaded that National Day of Shame when Kwame Nkrumah, who had a clear vision for Ghana and for Africa, who brought us dignity and pride and honor, who liberated us from the shackles of economic deprivation, they overthrew him. They are forebearers. The Dankwabuzia elements. And that is how this country has been recovering more than 40 years on. We are still trying to get back on our feet. Sana, the history of our country teaches us that by the 1970s to the early 1980s, when the PNDC had to come and rescue this economy, this country was in a total mess. Total mess. And this is well documented. Sana, is well documented in IMF World Bank documents. Between 1970 and 1980, per capita GDP fell by over 30%. Mineral production had fallen by 32%. Gold prices had fallen by 47%. Cocoa production by the 1960s under Nkrumah, we were at 400,000 metric tons a year. It declined by 1980 to 225,000 metric tons. By 1980, it had declined further to 170,000 metric tons. And by 1983, before the PNDC salvaged the situation, it had declined even further to 158,000 metric tons. Can you imagine, Senna? From 400,000 to 158,000 by 1983. Ghana was going through hyperinflation at 50% on average between 1976 and 1981. These are well documented in World Bank documents, in IMF documents. Inflation, average inflation between 1976 and 1981 was 50%. The real minimum wage dropped from 75 in 1975 to 15 in 1981. That's by 80%. We had seen the loss of value of the real minimum wage by 80%. Senna, between 1977 to 1983, real wages of a government clerical worker fell by 74%. Real wages fell by 74%. A senior manager in the civil service, it fell by 90%. That was the situation.
Okay.
And that is what led to Ghanaians packing out in droves. More than 1 million Ghanaians left, including many elements of the new patriotic party.
Okay.
And when you read, and Senna, please, I beg you, I'll need just some 10 minutes, please. I beg you. Please, this is a very, very important topic. Please.
I don't have 10, I'll give you 5.
I beg you. I beg
I'll
you.
give you 5.
I beg you. My senior comrade, Kwesi Pratt, has obliged. I can see from his picture. I thought you were my friend. Okay, okay. I will try. But Senna.
That's not because you're fine.
Senna, when you read Dr. Obeda Samuel's book, the political history of Ghana, 1950 to 2013, he dedicates a few pages to managing the economy, from page 339. And it makes very, very revealing reading. I did not know that things were so bad that Libya and the United States of America had to extend food aid to Ghana. Dr. Obeda Samuel documents this in his book. But you see, Senna, I'm going to say something now which I may run the risk of being summoned by the Council of Elders of my party. And it has to do with the fact that the extreme modesty and the silence of the elders of the NDC, PNDC, NDC, is really hurting our party. Really, really hurting our party. It is their extreme silence and extreme modesty which even created a Dr. Baumia. Look, in this book, page 342 of this book, Dr. Obeda Samuel writes, and I agree with him, that allowing market forces to take control was the only way out of the woes. And it is to the credit of the PNDC that today shops are full of every imaginable good and growth as a possibility. But the journey had been harrowing, involving a campaign of expenditure reduction, increased taxation, debt rescheduling, massive devaluing of the cedi, and other measures as part of an economic recovery program. But even Dr. Obeda Samuel, listen to what he writes. He says, this is a story better told by more qualified persons like Dr. Kwesi Boche, who pioneered it with the support of an economic review committee appointed as early as February 1982. A National Economic Commission NEC was established under the chairmanship of Mr. Justice Annan and the vice chairmanship of P.V. Obeng, it included others like Dr. Kwesi Boche. Where is Professor Kwesi Boche? Where are all the members of the National Economic Commission who brought Ghana out of the doldrums when millions of Ghanaians had left this country? And we remember the Nobisto affair. They were in exile, plotting, buying weapons to come and overthrow. They could not stay to help in the reconstruction of our country. So when people talk about damage to this country, to this economy, I want to plead with the elders, the likes of Professor Ahoy, Professor Kwesi Boche, Professor Kwamina Ahoy, Totobi Kwachi, and others, that the history of the PNDC and NDC, the history of economic management, where we have brought this country from, must be told.
Okay.
Alhaji Muhammad Idrisu and others, members who served in this National Economic Commission. And as I round up, Senna, there has been all this claim that the NDC did not have an economic management team and all of that. Everybody knows that that can only be false. When Professor Mills was vice president under President Rawlings, he chaired the economic management team. There was an economic management team that had the likes of Dr. Ablo, who used to work with the World Bank, Dr. Richardson, Joel Hyde, Cadman Mills, Kwame Pepra, Ishmael Yamson. When Vice President John Mahama was vice president, he chaired an economic management team that had the following membership: Dr. Gobai Nankani, the late, God bless his soul, Dr. Cadman Mills, Ishmael Yamson, Dr. Emmanuel Ablo, Togbi Afede the 14th, Mr. Joel Hyde, Fred Ohinikena, Dr. Kwabna Dufo, His Excellency Mr. Atta, God bless his soul, Dr. K.Y. Amwako, Professor K.N. Afo, and P.V. Obeng, God bless his soul. When President Mahama became vice president and Vice President Ms. Atta chaired the economic management team, he had a strong team that included the likes of Kwame P.N.M., Nana Oye Mensah Yeboah, Dr. Nashiru of the Bank of Ghana, Haruna Idrisu, Ekospio, Gabra, Kofi Boa, and others. Okay. So it is not true that there has not been an economic management team. But you see, Senna, what is important? What is important?
Let me.
Kwesi will come in 5 seconds. What is important is that this economy is clearly not working. Okay. People are complaining. Prices have shot up. People can barely live. Law students were shocked to get the admission letter and see that they have to pay 15,000 cedis. Can you believe that? For just one academic year. 15,000 cedis. Nursing trainees, teacher trainees, our fees have shot up, doubled. Okay. Sometimes quadrupled. We expect solutions and not insults. I thank you very much.
Senator, this happens to be one of the very difficult Saturdays. There are Saturdays on which you come to be part of this panel and you see the topics which are being discussed, and you can find 20, 30 other topics that merit discussion.
Yeah.
And there's a very difficult situation, a situation in which we are struggling to decide which of the topics is more important than the other. This morning, having read through the many newspapers that are available to us, I think that the choice of topics is not an easy one. You see, I've read the daily graphic of today, and I've seen a headline Ghana joins La Francophonie. And this is being presented as an achievement. And I asked myself what Ahmed Sékou Touré, the African continental hero, would feel if he were to read this story. And I asked myself about Thomas Sankara, who raised questions about La Francophonie and its objectives and so on. And I go back into history and remember that Ghana had to contribute £10 million to Guinea at its independence because Guinea was taking steps to opt out of La Francophonie and so on. And I wonder why it's not possible to discuss 30 topics in one day. That is not all. I've also read the Ghanaian Times of today, and there is a historic story, an extraordinary story on page 9 of Ghanaian Times. And the headline of the story is simply that 5 aspirants consider merger against Mahama. You know, this is the first time that I'm learning of an alliance of political aspirants against another aspirant. You know, and the story is so interesting that I would have liked to spend some time on it, but it's not possible. You have chosen your topics already. But there's something very interesting in the story. And this story is based on an interview with my very, very, very good friend, Sylvester Mensah. You know, he used to be head of the National Insurance Authority. And of course, everybody knows that he's my very, very good friend. Now listen to something. This is Sylvester Mensah who is speaking, and it's in quotation. Very interesting quotation. He's describing this alliance of aspirants against one aspirant. And he says, it simply means cooperating with your competitors. It gets to a point when you realize competitors have a common vision. Aspirants who believe in change, we have been meeting. He would not name the other 4, but indicated that we have a common understanding the party needs to change a different presidential candidate for the 2020 general elections. But listen to the next paragraph. The next paragraph of the same story. It says, that is the alliance of aspirants. He's describing it. And he says, it is the only way we can minimize the margin of an obvious win for Mahama. Listen to it carefully. It is the only way we can minimize the margin of an obvious win for Mahama. I think if we consolidate 4 or 5 come together and back one person against Mahama, it will be an interesting race. You know, I mean, this is interesting. The other part of the story says that the party is yearning for change. Mahama is so unpopular. In the party which is yearning for change, you need 5 aspirants to combine their efforts to make it interesting, not to win, to make it interesting.
And to reduce his vote.
I would have liked to spend some time on these stories, but it's not possible. So I will leave it here. Yeah. Like Konkonsa, this is not what I came to discuss. This is not even what I came to discuss. But I'll put it aside. You know, today, the suggestion is that we should discuss the contest between claims by the sitting Vice President, His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and claims also made by former President John Dramani Mahama about whose tenor, whose practice, and so on, has worsened or improved the Ghanaian economy. That's what we are supposed to discuss. I'm minded in this discussion by the realization that what is one man's achievement can actually be one man's failure. You understand? And therefore, it's important for us to ask ourselves, what standards are we using in this discussion? Because I have no doubt at all that if you brought the Inspector General of Police in a room on a panel and also brought an armed robber like Atai onto the same panel and asked them to discuss their achievements, that exercise can only lead to total chaos. Because the achievements of Atai will be the failure of the Inspector General of Police. And the achievements of the Inspector General of Police would obviously be the failure of Atai. So what standards are we using in this discussion? You understand? That's my worry. But be that as it may, we are told that this is about the economy, the state of the national economy. You see, first of all, when we talk about politics and politicians and so on, what are we talking about? What is politics? I mean, last week, I heard a very, very senior politician in Ghana make the absolutely nonsensical claim that politics is a game of numbers. And because it's a game of numbers, you are permitted to bring on board armed robbers, ex-convicts, and so on, because they add to the numbers. I mean, and this nonsensical claim has been made over and over and over again. I heard it again last week. I totally disagree. Politics is a science. Politics is a science of creating resources, generating resources, and devising the means of sharing those resources. And indeed, if you're a socialist, the emphasis would be on equitable distribution of those resources. That's the enterprise we are engaged in, you understand? And therefore, those who seek public office, politicians must be minded that their primary responsibility is to improve the well-being of the people. Now, when you discuss economy, in terms of statistical averages and so on, you confuse yourself. And indeed, sometimes that discussion is deliberately done in order to exclude the vast majority of our people who are not able to discuss things in terms of GDP and per capita income and so on. And I've always insisted that we can discuss the economy by looking at the lives of our people. Why? If the economy is improving, people should have better access to clean water. If the economy is improving, access to education and the quality of education needs to improve. If the education is improving, people must be able to feed themselves. These are the standards that I think we should use in this discussion. Now, unfortunately for us, and indeed is most unfortunate, for all of our politicians over the last perhaps 50 years, when it suits them, they tell us that you should look into your pocket to determine whether you are better off or not. Sometimes they tell us in chief, and so on, to determine whether things are good for you or not. The same people, when it suits them, they slap us with figures. They slap us left, right, and center with figures. So the question is, should we be looking into our pockets? Should we be examining our lives to see whether we are making progress, or should we be poring over figures which are sometimes absolutely meaningless in order to determine the kinds of life that we have? Now, you know, I like to do something this morning. I won't speak for long at all because I want us to discuss the next topic. You know, one of the things which is in contention is something called the gross domestic product. What does it mean? Gross domestic product, what does it mean? If you examine what goes into determining the gross domestic product at any time, you find that it includes all the gold which is dug from our soil, which is not kept here, which is sent to Europe, and for which the Bank of Ghana has signed the Foreign Exchange Retention Agreement, which enables the mining companies to keep 98% of their total earnings outside. If you go into the gross domestic product, you will find that it includes oil, production of oil revenue and so on. And our total stake in our oil and gas is 13.5%. And yet it will improve the gross domestic product substantially and so on. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So what is this gross domestic product that we are being beaten with every time and so on? What does it mean? It doesn't tell us that we are in control of our national economy. It doesn't tell us that even Ghanaians are the beneficiaries of production in Ghana. There's another one. They say per capita income has improved. I mean, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. This is a useless statistical average. It's an average of earnings in this country. So, in 1 year, you know, there are how many of us sitting around this table now? There are 6 of us sitting around this table. If in 1 year, Senna, your income goes up by 5,000%, and the 5 of us, our incomes goes down at a certain percentage, you can still get the per capita income rising because of your 5,000% increase. So the majority of the people sitting around this table whose per capita income is being calculated will be suffering, will be dying, will be poor, and yet the average will be rising. Can our politicians stop beating us with these nonsensical figures so that we can face reality? What is this? In any case, I've been a keen follower of Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia over a very long period, His Excellency, over a very long period. You understand? Of course, he's my friend. He's my friend, you know. And sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I just simply wonder. You understand? Because you listen to him today, and what you hear is substantially different from what you heard yesterday. And then we begin to wonder, what is he going to say tomorrow? No politician should put himself in such a state. You understand? Because not too long ago, the very same person was telling us that don't look at these figures. Look at your life. The very same person was telling us that, look, when the fundamentals of the economy are weak, forget the inflation rate, forget everything. The exchange rate would expose the reality. And today, we are being told that don't mind the exchange rate. Look at other things and so on. What is this? I mean, what is this? I can't believe it. But you see, sometimes it's important to engage in what they engage in, which is meaningless and useless, in order to prove even the fact that when it comes to this micro and macroeconomic indicators and so on, we are not being told the full truth. Today, we are being told that inflation has gone down. And because inflation has gone down, this is the best performing government we can ever get. Is that true? My brother, listen to me very carefully. I mean, the last time I heard under this administration that we had hit single-digit inflation, the rate of inflation was around 9.8. And I referred to my primary school arithmetic teacher, not mathematics teacher, arithmetic teacher, who told me that when we are doing conversions and so on, if you have anything above 9.5, you can approximate to 10. And anything below 9.5, you can approximate to 9. So when you have 9.8, how can you, even in simple arithmetic terms, consider that as single-digit inflation? And yet we're being told that we have achieved single-digit inflation. In any case, if we are looking at the rate of inflation, over the last 30 years or more, the only government that managed to sustain single-digit inflation for 3 years was an NDC government. If I lie, tell me. Now, you achieve single-digit inflation, and after 2 weeks, bam, back to double-digit. And then after some time, back to something like single-digit and so on. And we are boasting about this. What is wrong with us? You understand? Now, one of the key indicators of the standard of living of our people has been petroleum prices. Because you don't need to be an economist to know that when petroleum prices go up, they affect practically everything in our society. They affect transport fares, they affect the cost of education, they affect the earning power of workers, they affect everything. In the last 18 months, petrol prices have moved from 14 cedis per gallon to almost 25 cedis per gallon. And we are being told that everything is fine, we should be happy, and so on. Master, do you know something? The worst performance of the cedi in our history, from colonialism to today, the worst performance of our currency, unprecedented, has been recorded now. Never in our history did the cedi hit the value of 5 cedis to $1. And when you talk about it, they say, oh, the rate of acceleration is slower now. But we are still moving up. You understand? When the cedi was 4.2 to $1, if it was bad, how can the cedi at 5 cedis to $1 become good? Forget the rate of acceleration. It is still moving up and so on. This is a reality. You understand? And I think our politicians should be serious. I mean, my brother Okujato started doing something, and I was praying that he wouldn't do that. And he did it. You know, our national economy has been in deep crisis since 1966, and the trend has not changed. You understand? It has not changed. Yeah, it has not changed. It has continued throughout the ages and so on. If you take 1983 as the base year, and you come to look at our currency and so on, the national currency, the cedi, has depreciated by more than 30,000%. The last time I checked and made a public statement, it had depreciated by 28,000%. Now it is more than 30,000%. So we've got to look beyond ourselves to find why the national currency is performing so badly. Can you imagine when they tell you that your currency has depreciated by 30%? Can you calculate? But 30,000% is the rate at which the currency has been depreciated. Look, all the import substitution programs which were initiated by Nkrumah and so on, they've all collapsed. So Ghana has become a heavily dependent import neo-colonial economy. We don't produce anything, and so on. You understand? Now, look at the promises that the NPP made when it was in opposition. How many of those promises have been fulfilled? You see, instead of Dr. Bawumia sitting down to do his work, to make sure that the promises they made are being fulfilled, He's sitting down, insulting and attacking people. My brother, what is Dr. Bawumia supposed to do? What is he supposed to do? To sit down and call Mahama incompetent? Look, people will not vote for or against former President Mahama because Bawumia says that he's incompetent. People will vote for Bawumia and his government to stay in power if petroleum prices will come down, if they can get access to jobs. You understand? If cocoa farmers would not be ripped off as they have just recently been done and so on. So Dr. Bawumia should sit down and work and stop the name calling. The name calling does no good to Ghana. It does no good to him. It does no good to his new patriotic party. What is this name calling going to do? Why? In 2012, was Dr. Bawumia not the running mate of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo? Didn't he say worse things? Did the people of Ghana not vote against him as his presidential candidate? So why does he think that name calling is going to win an election and so on? People know what is happening. People expect election promises to be fulfilled and so on. That is the important job now. That is what he has to focus on and stop this name calling. Okay, fine. Former President Mahama was incompetent, so what? Would that bring down the prices of petrol and so on? Is that an important consideration? Please, let's get serious. All of us agree, and I say all of us agree because there's evidence that all of us agree on this matter. When Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was campaigning to become president, he said that the time has come to move out of the framework of the Gogisberg economy and to build a new Ghana without aid and so on and so on. So we all agree that this economy needs fundamental restructuring, that the problem with the economy is far more fundamental and so on, it's structural and so on. We all agree. President Mahama said the same thing. President Mahama clearly indicated that until we come to the time when we are producing the things that we need and eating what we grow and so on, this economy ain't going anywhere. Even President Kufuor said the same thing and so on. So why are we not tackling the problem? Why have we come to this level? And now we think that by joining La Francophonie, we will get benefits and develop our economy. Go and ask French-speaking African states what their fate is in La Francophonie. They are keeping their foreign reserves in the French Central Bank. The French Central Bank lends them money, their own money, and they pay interest on it. Those who have been in La Francophonie for the last 50 years have not benefited anything. Why do we think that we will benefit something? Or is it because our president speaks French? Master, our president speaks French, so what? Let us be serious and tackle the fundamental problems of our economy. Look, they said that cocoa price is falling. Yes, it is true. Cocoa price on the international market is falling. Why is it falling? It is falling because we, the major producers of cocoa, do not have any say when it comes to determining the prices. And it is because we are selling our beans raw and so on. Isn't it time for all of us to do what we have known to be right, which is adding value to cocoa? And even when it comes to adding value to cocoa, are we adding milk and sugar to the cocoa to become chocolate, other people's dessert? Or we want to concentrate on the medicinal value of cocoa and get into pharmaceuticals, get into cocoa as a pharmaceutical product? Are we going to add value to turn cocoa into soap, which has a very high price on the high-end fashion market and so on? Is that what we are going to do? Or we are just going to add milk and sugar and mix it up and turn it into other people's dessert and so on? This is time to think. This is not the time to engage in useless sloganeering. I'm getting fed up with all this useless sloganeering who does not resolve any problem in our country. I'm tired. I'm fed up. All this useless sloganeering. Where is it taking us?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. And one of the companies supporting Alhaji And Alhaji is Franco Trading Enterprise. They are offering you an amazing 30% on any of the following products when you buy from their online platform, phone and home accessories, tablet, flash screen TVs, and laptop printers, among others. Simply download the Franco Trading app from your Google Play Store, place your order, and phone will be delivered right at your doorstep. For those who have challenges with the Franco app, please uninstall and download again. You can visit francotrading.com/francophones.com. Branches are at the Braka, opposite Rosie Cinema, at the bus stop, Accra, UTC roundabout behind the Despite building, La Paz near New Boy Junction, opposite Prudential Bank, Circle close to Odor Rise, also opposite Echo Bank, Oxford Street, Tema opposite Waterworks Community 1, Medina Old Road opposite HFC Bank, Hacho opposite Hacho Station, Koforidua on the All Nations University College Road, Ho Market Road opposite Amagashi Building, Kaswa opposite the Kaswa Polyclinic. Call them on 0302 225 651 or 0546 133 188. Franco Trading phone Pepefie, and a couple of your messages. And this one is from Kojo Ezina, says, Sena, kindly remind your good panelists that all these NDC achievements took place even on the back of a 2.5-year power crisis. That's doom. So what to happen now if this suffocating economy is bedeviled with doom? So, and a couple more through our WhatsApp number, and it says, Comrade Sena, you see, when you go to pilgrimage to Mecca and you were a liar, you go to confess genuinely. If not, you'll be a great liar when you return. This Baumia man has cursed himself, and he will continue to lie until he apologizes to JDM. I have a blessed day from Hamza in Nima, and this one, hi. Gold, kindly tell Dr. Baumia, a country noted as a consumer state than production can never grow its economy. That's a Pierre Boydu in Accra. And Musa Abato and Kumasi says, Sena, Omaniboma is making a fantastic admission, Sam Piale. We are not interested in Baumia's insult. As a matter of fact, the oil sector is booming under this administration. Ghana has earned unprecedented dollar revenue from oil sale. Sadly, there's nothing to show for the revenues, and no major capital projects has been completed, neither power generation and so on. Unemployment has quadrupled, banks are collapsing, businesses are folding up, workers are being laid off. What crime have Ghanaians done to deserve this from President Akufo-Addo? Now, who killed the judges is on the spree. My advice to Rollins is that be careful of people you choose as your friends, because the people you meet on your way up, you definitely meet same on your way down. And this one, I was all the time thinking Dr. Baumia is the highest scholar in Ghana, who was trained differently over other schoolmates. But thanks to Dr. Danso for breaking the silence, others could not. He has made me know that there are more doctors who are wide awake. And this one, good morning. Send Nana Akufo-Addo didn't become president because he wants to bring change or development to Ghana. All he wanted was to become president and also to make money for himself and his family. That's from Ikuya and Ablekuma. Said from Ashaiman says, good morning, Sana. For some time I realized you don't bring, well, noted. Good morning, comrades. I think someone should advise Baumia to stop much talking. They are pushing him to damage his political career. He should look back to my sister Otiko Jaba. You say the truth, and the truth will set him free. That's from Abu in Spain. Tafa in Amrahia says, Sylvester Mensah was a campaign coordinator in Greater Accra, but we lost many seats. He should give us a break. President Mahama will beat them all, and none of them will be selected to be a running mate. And this one says, Senna is so difficult to understand when I listen to Baumia because he can lie up and down. King Farouk says, Dr. Baumia is a big-time disgrace to the office that he occupies. Ghanaians saw what the likes of late Professor Mills, Mr. Liu Mahama, John Mahama, and late Mr. Arthur handled that office. Dr. Baumia has turned the place into the office of a stand-up comedian and cracking jokes to entertain audiences as state-sponsored functions. This substandard behavior must end, so that office must attract the respect it once had. And those are your messages to our WhatsApp platform. Well, we have about 37 minutes more to go, and we have 2 topics to handle. Well, the directive from my producer is that we jump to the last topic, which has to do with politics, the issue of politics in the senior high schools, because of the issue of Captain Retired Joshua Kamba and the Timpani students having an interaction. The headmaster has been suspended because of that, and we'll start with Honorable Sam Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa. But unfortunately, we'll limit the time. You have 5 minutes to make your.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No problem.
Don't read from the book. That big book,
I think that this is a pretty much straightforward matter. The facts are very, very important. We need to pay attention to the facts. The Timpani Senior High School is a school that is unfenced. It is a school that has a major road going through the school to link communities. Moving from one community to the other, you need to go through the school. There are quite a number of schools of this nature. And I recall when we were at the Ministry of Education, we rolled out a program to fence our secondary schools. We did quite a number of them. And as I speak, there are quite a number of these fencing projects going on to ensure that our students are safe, lands are not encroached, and that there is general security and protection of our students. So when you consider the facts that Mr. Akamba, the aspiring national organizer of the NDC, was going through Timpani Senior High School on his way to campaign in another community. According to his account in the video I have seen, he was engaged by the students, and then he decided to have an interaction with them. We have all watched the video. You don't see the headmaster anywhere in the video. Now, the headmaster had not granted permission. The headmaster did not ask the students to go spend time with Mr. Akamba. And if you consider the nature of the school, it is not surprising that Mr. Akamba will run into students. This can happen to anybody. What must worry all of us is the increasing levels of intolerance and intimidation. If you interact with lots of heads of our schools, they will tell you that they have been warned very strictly not to even engage with the media and not to speak to other stakeholders. It is very, very, very troubling. To make matters worse, Senna, even their contributions to implement government policy is not being taken on board. And you know, Senna, how you struggle these days. I've heard many of your colleagues in the media say that it is very difficult to get heads of institutions to speak to you in the media. I've heard many stations. I've heard hosts on Joy FM, on TTFM, all say that publicly. We all recall the case of the La Presec headmaster, who in the early days of the implementation of free SHS talked about his challenges, the fact that there is no furniture and that students are having to sit on the floor and all of that. What did we see happen? He was immediately transferred. He was victimized. So I am deeply worried about these high levels of intimidation. At a personal level, I visited a school to make a donation, a school in my constituency, my own constituency, as member of parliament for the area. I was shocked when the headmaster called me afterwards that he had been summoned, when pictures of the donation went viral. He had been summoned, and he was dressed down well, and warned not to entertain me again in the school. Very, very shocking. As a member of parliament. Very shocking. And then you recall that, Senna, when we were at the Ministry of Education, secondary school grounds was fair campaign grounds for the MPP. And I'm glad that in this digital era, it's very, very easy to see the conduct of others in the past. Many videos have now emerged of Dr. Bawumia Nana Akufo-Addo engaging with secondary school students. We, not once. And you see, they did not even stop at the secondary school level. They went all the way down to the primary school level. I have, in an op-ed, recounted the famous case of the Kperisi headmistress who took Dr. Bawumia on a tour at the Kperisi Primary School in the Upper West region. Even at the time when sources had told us that she is an MPP, we did not victimize her. We actually rather gave instructions that nobody should touch her. Because, she clearly was courting attention and wanted something to be done to her so that she would virtually accuse the government of victimizing her. And we would not fall for that. So they did all they had to do, all their politics. Dr. Bawumia said that, that's the state of education and all of that. Ran down President Mohammed's administration and our educational interventions. And yet, we did not touch the lady. As time will vindicate all of us, she took part in the MPP regional elections. She stood for Regional Women's Organizer, the Kperisi headmistress. And the people were clearly not impressed with all her shenanigans earlier. She polled only 2 votes. She was the last, actually. She lost very miserably. I don't know why the MPP did not reward her for all her misconduct, more or less. Now, the point has to be made that in this specific case of Joshua Akamba, it is very difficult to drag in the headmistress or the headmaster, be that as it may. So it is not fair for the GES to suspend the headmaster. It is not fair at all. And I'm expecting that the union leaders will speak up. You see, in the educational environment, you need to have all your stakeholders. And the heads, CHAS, is a very important group. You need them to very freely express, because they are there and they see to the day-to-day management. So if you invoke this culture of intimidation and they cannot speak, it's very, very worrying. On my way here, a mother called me frantically that they just finding out that second years in the secondary schools, when they vacate in November, will have to stay home till March because of double track. And that's what they have just been told at Chimota School. So she's wondering, she thought that double track would not affect them, the continuing students, and she's contemplating moving her child to a private school, because she's a very busy mother and there's a busy husband. They don't know what their child will be doing between now and March. Bad policies. And that is why yesterday I was extremely happy when the Greater Accra Regional Minister, and I have called him my minister probably for the year, announced that they are not going to award any new contracts in the education sector in Greater Accra region, and that they have counted 220. Ghanaian Times front page yesterday. Honorable Ishmael Ashite, he said they have counted 220 educational projects, school projects, which they inherited, and that they want to focus on completing them. So, very revealing moment for all of us. It's no longer photoshopped. Projects do exist. The Greater Accra alone, they've inherited 220 projects from us. The challenge the regional minister will face, though, is that not all of these projects are RCC and projects by the MMDAs. The majority, I would think about 60%, are central government projects, Ministry of Education, Get Fund sponsored projects. And so if that is not the government from the president to ministers, they will face serious challenges on the ground. But you see, if this had been implemented from the beginning, and if what Ishmael Ashite has put out, is what was done in the beginning, we had rolled out enough programs, the NDC program of these 124 community day schools that we were constructing. If they were not abandoned, these schools would have been completed. You see, this whole thing trying to make Joshua Kamba and the headmaster the issue, that's not the issue. It's a diversion. The real issue is the state of our education and what our children are going through. You've seen the video. Look at how the children showed the bedbug bites. Children eating on the floor, bare floor, sometimes in the bush. That is the issue. Should any child go through this? And this is something we could have avoided. It's not as though we are in a crisis situation. But because of reckless populism, I am going to do free SHS, and I will not find resources and expand infrastructure. I think I can cut corners, do a shift system, a double track, which people are now calling trouble track. This is where it has left us. And now parents are discovering that their wards in second year, third year will have to stay home even longer. Where are we going? Meanwhile, we had managed to bring secondary education to such a pedestal that in West Africa, for 3 consecutive years, our WASI performance in Ghana was the best. 3 consecutive years. We found resources to invest in science resource centers, 300 science resource centers, fully equipped. We're then expanding facilities. The Secondary Education Improvement Project, $156 million. We identified low-performing schools, 125 of them, giving them what we call the facilities and quality upgrade to bring them so that not only a few schools will be the grade A schools that everybody will want to attend, but low-performing schools can also be brought up. Now all of this has been jeopardized. I'm waiting to see the next WASI results. And look at the state. I mean, going to school now, and you know, friendly, congenial learning environment is very important. It's not that I've arrived in school. No. The child must look forward to going to school. The child must feel safe, must have a happy environment to be able to assimilate and graduate properly and be helpful to our society. We cannot continue this way. And I am very proud of President Mahama for stating boldly that the next NDC guy will abolish the double track system, the shift system. It will be abolished. We will go back to our program of expanding schools, building the community day schools, and restoring normalcy and focusing not only on affordability but access and quality, which are cardinal principles in education. And I believe that the Mahama program is the best program, and I'm glad that it's been very well received. When he put that out, certainly Professor Yanka embarrassed himself when he thought that he was the one, President Mahama. Yeah, I'm surprised he thought he's the only Professor Yanka in the world. I mean, it just tells you if our ministers at the education ministry cannot be thorough, take their time and just check. Any wonder that these are the policies they are rolling out, and these are the this leading to massive suffering and total disillusionment. And you know, to cover all of this up, they are then intimidating teachers, intimidating heads. We don't need this culture. And as I conclude, Senna, it is only governments who have a lot to hide. When you know that what you are doing, you are not proud of it, it's a disaster. That is when you impose this culture of intimidation and silence. You don't want your stakeholders to speak. You don't want them to open up, because then the truth, you will be exposed. Let's stop this culture of intimidation. That headmaster must be freed. I've seen the video. He has done nothing wrong. He was not there. He was not even in school at the time. It's a road. The place is a thoroughfare. You go through the school to the next community. So this unnecessary victimization must stop.
Please.
Yes, and you see, the matter under discussion goes beyond just an educational issue. Even though it exposes clear shortfalls, clear problems that are largely self-inflicted because of shallow opportunism and populism. At the heart of it is an attempt to emasculate the Ghanaian and turn all of us into robotic praise singers. You see, the last time I checked, Ghana was not led by Bokassa or Mobutu or any of the bloody dictators that this world has seen. We were not led by Suharto or Ferdinand Marcos. We were led by a supposedly freely elected president. A man who has wasted no time and spared no effort at reminding us of his democratic credentials. He says that he led the effort to repeal the criminal libel law and broaden the frontiers of democratic speech. So the last thing we expect is the imposition of a culture of silence. And for all those hawks who sit around him in the MPP and think that they can turn this country into a pseudo one-party state, so that anybody who is opposed in any way, shape, or form and expresses that opposition will become the subject of intimidation and harassment of attacks. They must appreciate that we have come too far in our democratic journey to allow or even permit the undoing of all the gains that we have made. It simply will not happen. There's no way that the people of this country, or at least a section of the people of this country, are going to roll over and allow the MPP to run roughshod only because they will be intimidated. I mean, these days, the president has launched a crusade against the peddling of fake news and false information. Yesterday, I heard the quote attributed to him. I could not believe the level of duplicity and hypocrisy that was on display. This is a man who is president and is stationed at the Flagstaff House, where a fake news machinery has been set up and manned by persons who are paid with taxpayers' money, simply to defame and malign and peddle outright falsehood about opponents of government. So you wake up in the morning and they will do flyers attributing things that you've not said to you in a bid to damage your reputation because you would have criticized government one way or the other. The president superintends this, uses state resources to fund this machinery, and then turns around to accuse others of engaging in a peddling of fake news and misinformation. Now, all that is part of an effort to undermine the credibility of people who take him on and criticize his policies. So even though we are discussing the Akamba incident within the context of a poorly and shabbily implemented free senior high school program, it has undertones in freedom of speech. And that is the reason why all of us must turn into Akambas and insist on the right to free expression. We must not tolerate a situation where this headmaster becomes the subject of mistreatment by the Akufo-Addo government. Look, the cracks and problems of the free senior high school cannot be hidden. All the children who are under that program belong to families. They come from homes. When they go home, the problems that they face, they will tell their parents and guardians. The secondary schools are based in communities. It is not only students and teachers who live there. There are people from outside who interact on a daily basis with the senior high schools. And so the problems are well known. So the effort to hide it and create the impression that all is well and everything is smooth sailing, it's a farcical joke. Why? Has the government itself not admitted as much? That because of the problems they are facing, they have had to adopt a shift system, which they euphemistically call double track. I mean, I woke up with great shock one morning to find that as many as 3 posters had been placed in front of my house advertising vacation classes for children who had not started senior high school education yet. In the past, it was thought that when you go to school and you come home and your parents believe that you are idling about and creating all manner of problems, they just dump you in a vacation classes institution just to keep you busy so they can have their peace of mind. But under President Akufo-Addo, now parents have to make arrangements to let their children go to vacation classes in advance of gaining entry into senior high schools. That is how bizarre and ridiculous our educational system has become under President Akufo-Addo. Instead of tackling the problems head-on and articulating a clear path to getting us out of this mess, which will lead to precipitous declines in the quality of education, they are resorting to intimidation and harassment in order to mask the problems. And the more they try to do that, the more the problems come up. Why? If children go to school and they are sitting on cement blocks and gallons, how can you conceal that? It will reflect in the quality of output. We as a country spend considerable resources and time eliminating the shift system at the basic level. And yet, it has been introduced at the senior high school level. You know, when they introduced the double track and we questioned them about its viability and feasibility, you know the answers they gave us? That it was a temporary measure, that it will last for 7 years. If it was such a great idea, why are they implementing it only over a 7-year period? In any event, those 7 years will be catastrophic for this country. It means that an entire generation of Ghanaian students will be condemned to poor quality teaching and instruction. They told us that through an arrangement with Get Fund, they had secured $500 million, or roughly 2 billion Ghana cedis, to provide infrastructure on emergency basis to address the problem. I only learned last week that 90% of that sum is going to pay contractors who are owed. So only 10% of that amount, a paltry $5 million or $50 million will be available to do all of that. When you convert that into Ghana cedis, that's 200 million Ghana cedis. It will do very, very little in terms of addressing the huge problems that have arisen because of this matter. Now, the question that you need to ask that why is it that Get Fund has even had a need to go and borrow? It is because they have capped the amount of money, the billion Ghana cedis a year, that would ordinarily go to Get Fund, and are using it to finance recurrent expenditure. And so they don't have the money to also finance capital expenditure. So they have introduced a vicious cycle, and our children, brothers and sisters, have become guinea fowls around whom very reckless experimentation is taking place in the education system. So President Akufo-Addo must be forthright and candid with himself and take steps to immediately reverse this trend, instead of harassing political opponents and headmasters and other people who voice concern about the appalling situation in which our children live. Why? Why should children become the victim of bedbug infestation? Children go to school and deadly outbreaks are recorded because of massive overcrowding. Children go to school and they are sitting on the bare floor, even in supposedly urban areas. Right here in St. Aquinas, I read a story, a quotation attributed to the headmaster, who said that their science laboratories have now been turned into makeshift classrooms. That has implications for the study and teaching of science. So even in urban areas, we are also perceived it's an urban school, and yet they were sitting on cement blocks. When the headmaster spoke about it, they exacted retribution against him and posted him to an obscure desk at the Ghana Education Service. You do not get out of problem by intimidating opponents or censoring dissent. It will expose you. So President Akufo-Addo must understand that there's only one way out of this mess. It is to take pragmatic steps. And it is obvious that he has not got the capacity to do it. So President Mahama has offered an alternative, that he will immediately abolish this shift system that has been introduced and take steps to reverse all the quality, reversals that we are witnessing at the moment. Thank you very much.
Before I come to Ambassador Sampia, happy birthday to Mr. Kwamina Ahoy. It's from Numeko Akola. Thank you.
Sana, we are running out of time, but the point has to be made that ever since these people forced this free senior high school on us, there has not been any evaluation about its effect. We're just running on and running on. But every year we add on to the problem, either because we have not planned financially to be able to manage the program, or that we didn't anticipate that by that program there were going to be congestion in our schools. For me, the greatest evaluation is the Akamba effect. The greatest evaluation of the free SHS is the Akamba effect. The Akamba effect is simply that it has thrown light into all the problems the students are going through. I've even seen a video in which students are washing in a stream, and they said, oh, we fetch water upstream to drink and wash here. Mr. Sana, the problem I have is a moral one. As we sit here, and those of us who have entered politics, call it that way, do we have our children in those schools? Those of you, Sam, who have ruling out these policies, does Napo has his son or daughter in this school, in these schools? If you take a look at the records, this year, many parents have sent their words outside Ghana than any time in the world, in the history of this country, outside to go and study. Apart from that, the enrollment in private schools has quadrupled. A school like that I know took as much as 2,500 non-refundable admission fee. And apart from that, they're going to pay almost 4,500 fees. Their enrollment has quadrupled. Not because the school is being wicked, but because the school thinks that there's a demand for it, and that they have to expand their facilities. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I have learned that the headmaster, like Sam said, of that particular school is called Dominic something, and he has about 5 months to go on retirement. And that he had been called by the regional director the previous day to come and tell him the problems of the school. So he was on his way when Akamba was passing through. And I've watched 4 videos of one, Bawumia traveling through the same route, and where the students were V8. I think the students have become too used to V8 passing through. And then when they are saying V8, they are not standing there. They won't stay in the classroom. They will be flocking towards the road. I've seen 4 videos of the same. I've seen Bawumia talking to primary students. I've seen Bawumia, the same Bawumia, talking to secondary school. Introducing Alhaji Mahama. Ali Mahama. Yes. In the same school. And that they are suffering. But if Akufo-Addo comes, they are planning to change. The same school. So why are we having double standards? Why is this headmaster going to be dismissed, and the other headmasters who entertained Bawumia and the rest were left tight. If you don't plan what you want to do, especially with children and the education, the effect of this on this country, see, those of us who enjoy Kwame Nkrumah's privileges are who we are today. But those who are coming through the either is 4-year term or 3-year term, as if we don't know what we are doing with education. We are destroying our future. Last time, a girl came from a secondary school, and the parent had to put the trunk and chop box outside.
To be fumigated.
Outside. So I was visiting the mother. There were 2 girls. One chop box was and trunk was here. I was visiting the mother and the father, and he said, one is in Cape Coast. And I said, why have you got the trunk? There's, one said, this is Napo bags. You know Napo bags? The same bed bags, they call it Napo bags. So what is Napo bags? Oh, Napoleon, the minister. That is his bags. And they showed girls. Girls. Why are we doing this to our children? Just because we want to educate them. A child has a right to education, but yes, but a child has a right to education, but a child has also got a right of protection. Children's right, isn't it? I mean, you are a doctor. You see, why are we putting our child in the Akamba video? You saw a goat standing by the by the chop box and the trucks. Oh, we didn't see it. There was a goat standing there. And then if the chop boxes and everything are there and the girls go to the classroom, what happens to their property? Is that what we are giving to our children? And Akufo-Addo, you are too happy about it? You can take your wife and children, your grandchildren and your great-great-grandchildren to London for holidays. This is what our children should go through. And we cannot talk about it. I am appalled as a trade unionist to see NAGRA, TUC and the rest keeping quiet over this issue. I am appalled that teachers' unions have kept quiet when their own is being victimized for something he has not done. Today we have seen that there's a regulations banning politicians from entering schools.
There's actually no such regulation.
There's no such regulations. What about the TAIN?
No, and there's only a regulation that says teachers cannot engage
in politics. So yes. What is the issue here? Now, I show something to my very good friend Kosi Pratt. This honorable MP is even saying that the student, a campus student, should go for counseling. I leave that for Kosi to go for counseling for what?
Yeah,
it's in the daily
ridiculous.
This even communist China and Soviet Union, they wouldn't do this. If your fundamentals of education are wrong, the Akamba effect betray you.
Akamba effect.
Thank you very much. Senna, I'll try to be very snappy. I think that Joshua Kamba, General Kamba must be commended for this focusing event that is shedding light once again on the plight of our SHS students. And I will say we need more Akambes if that is what will bring up the issue of the plight of senior high school students. Then let there be more Akambes. But, Senna, it is not just the Akamba case. And I sympathize with the headmaster in this index case. I sympathize with his family. And I sympathize with his friends. Because we have a very vindictive government. And you can imagine what this headmaster is going through at this particular time. He is not the only headmaster who has suffered this. But interestingly, it looks like the MPP is in no mood to accept any variations apart from their predetermined, unplanned implementation of free SHS. And so examine even when the current finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, suggested
that people who can pay must be excluded. The venom with which his own party members greeted this suggestion. But it is this very low threshold for accommodating dissent, accommodating different shades of opinions in terms of how we should move secondary education forward, that will make a medical doctor who is the current Minister for Education to be referring to people using polythene bags if students cannot have places of convenience. But why are we here? To understand why we are here, we need to just look into the past. And to be able to predict where we are heading towards, we have to look into the past and into the present. We are here because candidate Akufo-Addo plagiarized the 1992 Constitution. And when people talk about plagiarism, sometimes they refer just to his inaugural address. No. He plagiarized the 1992 Constitution as if he had brought about the idea of free senior high school. Beyond that, it was very clear when we kept on informing him that you had not thought through it, he argued against. He was exposed on hard talk. When it became very clear that he had not thought through it, costing had not been done. And even Mr. Patrick Ewua had also spoken around that same time about what should go into education and the relevance of it and everything. None of these cautions could trigger a rethink of the policy. Going forward, because we must be interested whether we like it or not. Elections have consequences, and the 2016 elections will let this government live with us at least for the next 2 years plus, few months. So what should they be doing? I'm interested in that because I care about the public health implications of what these students are going through. Just yesterday, I got another picture of girls who had food on a field. And you can imagine the field. What don't people put on the field? People really on the field, goats, sheep, whatever can poo-poo there, anything can be dropped there and all. Food was being shared on a school field. I received that picture just yesterday. We have already gone through a process of these strange deaths that hit senior high schools and all kinds of associated infections. President Akufo-Addo, this beggar thy neighbor free SHS must be thought through again. Why won't you just bring on board the private senior high schools just to relieve the government secondary schools of this pressure that they are going through? Bring on board the private senior high schools, and immediately, one, you will reduce or resolve the congestion on the government schools. Two, abolish the shift system. My second point is, this will also help government to revert to the 3-term system, which is far more superior than the 2-term system that is going to be implemented. But assuming they do all this, there is increase in numbers. This will affect quality education, and that quality must be addressed. This requires many more textbooks. This requires many more laboratories. This requires motivation of teachers. And so if you need more laboratories, if you need more classrooms, so that even at a point you can then move some of the students who would have joined the private schools into the government system, what should you do? Just go ahead and complete the outstanding Mahama Community Day Senior High Schools. And why do I say this? If I ask for the completion of the outstanding Mahama Community Day Senior High Schools, I'm not asking for too much. Why do I say so? The NPP promised that they were going to build 350 Community Day Senior High Schools. Okay? I remember at the end of our first year in office, 2013, Okujeto Ablakwa, President Alhaji Opoku were being asked, how many of the 200 community day schools have you built? They were expecting 50. As if over a period of 4 years, it was 50, 50, 50, 50. So if you promised 350 community day senior high schools, we are not asking at the end of the first year. We are asking towards the end of the second year, how many of these schools have they even put a hoe or a pickaxe on the ground for a groundbreaking ceremony? So to ask them to complete the Mahama Community Day Senior High Schools that are outstanding is not asking for too much. But this is what happens when Nana Yenkamasem sits at the apex of governance of our country. Even when the finance minister speaks, he will be shut. Even when people are criticizing constructively, headmasters will be victimized. And even when religious leaders who care about education must be contributing positively, government will just invite them and tell them in the face what they think the schools, the religious schools, the Catholic schools and the rest must be doing, and not to be taking suggestions from them.
Thank you, Doc.
Well, look, I think that the first most important thing to say is that the headmaster of the school has done nothing wrong. He did not facilitate this interaction with Akamba. He was not on the campus at the time this happened, and so on. And to victimize him, I think is most unfortunate. And I think that all people who believe in upholding the rights of citizens and so on need to speak out and to work very hard to ensure that this headmaster is not punished. But I've just read the most interesting aspect of the story in the Daily Guide of today, indeed page 6. And I'm getting very, very deeply worried about what is happening on the campus of that school. The story is headed, Akamba Girls to Get Counseling. And indeed, it reminds me of what used to happen under fascism. The program which is called re-education, where people who disagreed with government are put in camps and so on, under the pretext of being re-educated or receiving counseling. And if I had my child in this school, and I think parents should do that, parents should insist on getting the content of this counseling exercise which is going on in the school. Because if you read the Daily Guide report very carefully, it talks about some of the girls who were captured in the video, that they have become very quiet. They are no longer even interacting with fellow students and so on. Something must be happening to the students of the school. Some of them have become withdrawn and so on. What is the nature of the counseling that is taking place in that school? I'm very, very worried that we need to satisfy ourselves that the school is not being turned into a re-education camp. Because if it is, then there's a serious problem. You know, I like to read parts of the story. Authorities at the Timpani Senior High School in the newly created Timpani district of the Upper East region say measures have been put in place to offer counseling to female students who were captured in the video hooting at President Akufo-Addo and Member of Parliament Joseph Dindiok Pemka under the supervision of Joshua Akamba. Daily Guide gathered that the girls have been subjected to ridicule and feel ashamed of their behavior since many students and teachers on campus hold the MP in high esteem. What does this mean? Who is subjecting the girls to ridicule? Who is subjecting the girls to this which makes them ashamed and so on? Who is doing that? And indeed, if it was wrong for Joshua Akamba to go to the school and incite the children to hoot at the president, is it right to get people into the same school to make the girls ashamed and so on, as it's being described here? Who has the right to go to the school and subject the girls to this treatment? And I'll read on. It talks about 3 young girls, all first-year students in the school, who said that though there are challenges in the school, they are focused on their books to secure better future for themselves. Asked whether they know some of the girls in the video, they answered in the affirmative. There's one of them in my class. She's very quiet and disciplined. And since the NDC man and his people made the girls to disrespect the president and the MP, she has not been fine again. People have seen the video and she's now feeling shy. Another student said, this is very interesting. Another student said, there are bed bugs, but as for me, I keep my corner, my mattress and my bed sheet clean, so they don't get to me. Listen. Listen. So they don't get to me like the other girls. If we clean our dorm frequently, the bed bugs will reduce. I think we are many. I think we are many. So some students keep their areas dirty. Listen. I think we are many. So some students keep their areas dirty. That is why the bed bugs have been increasing. So the bed bugs are actually increasing. They admitted that the dormitories were congested. But were hopeful the situation will soon improve with the completion of the girls' dormitory by the government. In line with the directive by the Regional Director of the Ghana Education Service, the Assistant Headmaster in charge of administration at Timpani SHS, Alhaji Isaka Charles Abugri, declined to comment on the matter in line with the directive. That's very interesting. You know, the school's counseling unit is up to the task and would offer counseling to the traumatized students and so on. You know, if I were a parent in this school, I'll be asking very serious questions. What is the re-education program that the students are being subjected to under the guise of counseling? For all we know, we are back in the days of Franco. For all we know. You understand? So I think serious questions should be asked about this, which appears to be a re-education program. And you know what re-education under fascism means, and so on. I'm very disturbed by this development.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. And once again, Franco Trading Enterprise is one of the companies backing us, and they said you can enjoy an amazing 30% on any of the following products when you buy from their online portal: phone and accessories, tablet, flat screen TVs, and laptop printers, among others. Simply download the Franco Trading app from your Google Play Store, place your order, and phone will be delivered right at your doorstep. For those who have challenges with the Franco app, please uninstall and download again. Visit francotrading.com/francophones.com. Branches at the Raka opposite Roxy Cinema in Accra, UTC roundabout behind the Despite building, La Paz near New Boy Junction, and other areas across the country. You can call them on 0302 225 651 or 0546-133-188. Franco Trading, Phone Papa Fie. And don't forget, there was also sponsored by Titi Brothers, Kulun Ghana Limited, among others. And well, we're joined in the studio by Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., Managing Editor of Inside Newspaper, Dr. Eduardo Manibuama, who is former Communications Minister, Felix Kwachifo, who is a former Deputy Minister of Communications, Samuel Okujeto Abakwa is a Member of Parliament for North Tong, Sampiale is President of NDC Professionals Forum. Once again, a happy birthday to you, Kwame. Mr. Kwame Ahoy is from Numako Akola Chair. And a big thank you to our partner stations across the country. It was also live on Radio Gold 905.com. My name is Senna Number